Right, good evening, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Born and unborn.
All right, I'm going to ask our police chief to come forward. He was going to talk to the assembly.
Council President Mannix, requesting permission to address the audience directly.
Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
It's a little awkward with the setup. First of all, for the fire codes, this room is rated for 154, so I appreciate everybody's cooperation and patience in helping our detail officers make sure we stay compliant with that. There are two overflow rooms. One is rated for 41 and the other for 26. We will allow anybody else in on a one-to-one basis, one person out, one person in. Thank you for that. In terms of speaking tonight, I'm asking everybody to follow the rules and regulations as set by the town council. When we get to the discussion point or the open forum, the council president will ask to see who's interested. Raise your hand. He'll invite you up. You say your name, you say your address, and you got 3 minutes to speak. I'm asking that everybody in the audience to refrain from any disruptive behavior. Okay? In an effort to avoid any issues, I just want to let everybody know what the process. We do have a town ordinance and a state law that prohibits disrupting a public assembly. We're at capacity tonight, so I don't want anything bad to happen. So if everybody follows the rules, we can avoid that. If people are getting a little bit out of hand, an officer will speak to you, give you any opportunity to comply. If you don't comply, he'll tell you to leave. And if you don't want to leave at that point, well, then they'll be forced to arrest you. But I don't think that'll be necessary, and I sincerely hope that it's not. So in advance, I'd like to thank everybody for your cooperation, and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt, I'd like to make a motion to move item number 14 to the top of the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved. 5-0. Item number 14 is a motion to appoint Teresa C. Donovan as the town clerk for the town of Narragansett, effective January 22nd, 2019, under the advice and consent of the town council pursuant to the Narragansett Town Charter. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? I know the council is very happy. I know that I'm very happy that that Jim has decided to put Terry Donovan's name forward for this position. We've worked well with her for many, many years as the deputy clerk and as the probate clerk, and her demeanor and her approachability are things that we all appreciate. So, and her knowledge of procedure and her knowledge of the town hall. So I'm going to turn it over to Jim because it's his appointment. It's our job to ratify, either ratify or not ratify that appointment. So.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm respectfully asking the town council to consider a vote for Terry Donovan. We did a search on numerous websites for qualified applicants at the request of Terry. She said, I want to be the best. If I'm going to get it, I want to be the best one. Please search for the best candidate. We did an exhaustive search, came down to a few candidates. We interviewed them. Terry did very well in the interview, but also her track record here at Town Hall was excellent. She has a very calming effect in that office. She'll pick up from the good job that Ian Irons left off on, and I'm fully confident in her abilities. She has over 20-some-odd years experience as a town clerk in several communities, and I'm very confident she'd be a perfect fit for Narragansett. So once again, I'm respectfully asking that the town council approve this request. Thank you.
Any discussion from the audience? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion approved. 5-0. And now we. And now we'll be ready to administer the oath for the town clerk. I, Teresa C. Donovan,
I, Teresa C. Donovan,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will be true and faithful unto this state
that I will be true and faithful unto this state
and support the laws and Constitution thereof,
and support the laws and Constitution thereof,
the laws and the Constitution of the United States,
the laws and the Constitution of the United States,
the Narragansett Town Charter and ordinances,
the Narragansett Town Charter and ordinances,
and that I will well and truly execute the office of Town Clerk for the term which I have been appointed,
that I will well and truly execute the office of the Town Clerk for the term for which I have been appointed,
or until another be engaged in my place,
or till another be engaged in my place,
or until I am legally discharged
or till I am legally discharged
therefrom,
therefrom,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations
Thank
and
you, sir.
welcome.
Thank you so much.
So we're going to take a 5-minute break for Terry to take pictures. Her family is here to celebrate this appointment. Next, we have the approval of the minutes. We have the approval of the minutes from the January 7th, 2019 regular council meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Next item is the approval of the January 14th, 2019 executive session meeting minutes. Is there a
So
motion?
moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Our next item is the consent agenda. We have, are there any items that anyone would wish to remove from the consent agenda? They're not here. Yeah.
No items to remove from the consent agenda. However, I do, if possible, would like to speak about open forum. And we have an issue with being in violation of our town council rules.
Well, I need a motion if anyone want to withdraw an item from the consent agenda.
No.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved, 5-0. Do you want to move an item? Is that what you'd like to do?
Sure, yeah. I would like to move open forum to right before a public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
So last week, when open forum was moved improperly to the end of the meeting, you did explain why that happened, and Jill brought up a motion to move open forum back to the beginning, but also to start open forum at the end of the meeting, starting next meeting, which is this meeting. When we took that vote, you didn't offer discussion, and I asked for that. You actually didn't allow it, and right there, according to Robert's rules, you must offer discussion. So that basically would invalidate that motion. If you do want to move it to the end, this meeting, we can have a motion for you to do that. But according to the town council rules, it should be at the beginning of the meeting.
So you have an item on later addressing this whole issue.
Correct.
So, so we will talk to that. Right now, all in favor of moving the public comment open forum to the beginning of the meeting?
Well, I'm not asking for a vote on it. What I'm saying is that
Well, you made a motion, there was a second to move it up.
I didn't second it.
Yes, you did.
I seconded
all right, what I'm talking about
So
here
is there, we're going to vote to move it up, and then you have your discussion on the other point later. So
no, the point is that if we continue this meeting without moving it up, we're in violation of the current town council rules. We can't move forward in violation of the
we
rules.
voted to change those at the last meeting.
You didn't offer discussion.
Yeah, didn't need to. It was a procedural motion.
If it's procedural, you can't move the open forum.
All
to
in
the ne-
favor, we're going to
Excuse
have
me,
this robust
excuse me.
discussion.
You cannot move items for the next meeting in a procedural motion, and you know that.
You'll discuss this when your motion comes up.
We can discuss it, but
going
we
to.
have to move it forward now.
So we're going to vote, let's vote on your motion to move it up.
The current town council rules are from August
All in
6th,
favor.
2018.
Matt, you want to get a ruling with Mark?
All in favor.
Can we get a rule? Can we have Mark?
Give Mark pipe in.
Mark, if you want to talk to the sequence of events from the last 2 weeks.
With regard to open forum, the Open Meetings Act does not require open forum. The charter, the town charter, provides that the town council will conduct an open forum, but does not specify when, for how long, or any other specifics. Robert's rules in reading Robert's rules, this would be considered, in my opinion, to be administrative or procedural, and as a result would not require discussion, but would require a majority of the town council to vote one way or the other. So my understanding and recollection is that a motion was made, that a majority of the town council voted to move it, and I don't see a violation of the charter, of the Open Meeting Act, or Robert's rules.
So, Mark, just to
you.
follow up on that, would changing the official town council rules, would that be considered administrative?
The town council rules were voted on. Are you talking about the August 2018? They were voted on in August, but the charter wasn't changed, or it wasn't in the form of an ordinance. So it doesn't change the status of whether it's considered administrative or procedural. I mean, they're rules, but they weren't codified in any other more significant manner.
So procedural motions are for the meeting that you're in currently, correct?
There's no requirement to post that or to offer discussion on procedural or administrative type
Correct.
motions.
But you would be moving items within the meeting you're currently in, not in meetings 2 weeks down the road.
I think the motion was to move it for the following week.
But you're saying it's an
and therefore-
administrative motion, a procedural motion. That's
Yeah.
different than a main motion, which, first of all, requires debate, must,
Yes.
not offered, even when asked
Well,
for it.
I don't think it was, I don't think anyone would consider that a main motion.
It has to be a main motion, or it's a procedural.
Items to
procedural motion.
move, I think we've got an answer from the solicitor. Requests to move these items are essentially procedural. We've moved, for example, Terry Donovan's appointment up, and we do that often with agenda items.
That's
So-
within this meeting.
Mark, I just had a question. In the August meeting, since we had a 5-0 vote, doesn't that basically ratify the format? And to change the format, we need a clear agenda item and a discussion, not just an amendment.
It needed to be voted on to change it. It was voted on and it was changed. Whether, I think you're suggesting, Patrick, that it would need to be published, debated, and voted upon. I don't see that particular item. It's being moved from one part of the meeting to another. I don't think anyone would consider that. I mean, people may not have a preference for that, but it's not substantive. So no, I don't think it needed to be published nor debated.
Okay, just one more question, Mark. So are we saying that that motion from last meeting was to amend the town council rules. Because it's required in the, specifically in writing in the town council rules.
It says the regular order of business shall be as follows unless altered by a vote of the council. And it was altered by a vote of the council.
So did we amend the town council rules? Because I'm looking at them right here, and they're not amended. The town council rules in this binder right now have open forum as number 7. So if it's not amended, then it's not amended.
I think that vote was to amend them.
So can I have the new rules?
I would have to defer to
We
the town
didn't have
clerk
our
on that.
town clerk prepare new rules. So I think you'll make these points, Jesse, or when you have your item come up later as well.
So we're not
right
going to
now-
follow Robert's rules, that's
well,
fine.
We're going to, is there a vote on this motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All opposed?
No.
No.
No, motion fails 2-3. The next item, we have presentation. I'm sorry, I apologize that I skipped the announcements and presentations, but our presentation for the downtown banner project update was Jim, could you talk to that briefly, please, the town banner?
I was advised the town banner update might be postponed, but then I see some people in the room that could update us on it. So, yes, they are in the room, and they will update us. Sorry for the confusion, Mr. President.
That's okay, yeah, no, that's great, thank you.
Well, can we get a motion? No.
And Jim, I do believe the Chamber of Commerce Director is in the overflow room, so I don't know if we can have her come in and one person come out.
Could you just wait 1 minute while we get the chamber? Welcome. Yeah. Welcome. Please state your name and your address and the nature of your presentation. Just go right, press the red, is it red?
I always have problems with this thing. I'm so sorry.
That's okay, no, come right into it, yeah. All right.
I'm Lauren Ruggiero. I am the communications advisor for the Narragansett school system.
How's it going? I'm John Szymanski. I work for the Department of Public Works, Highway Division.
And I'm Peg Fredette, the operations manager for the Chamber of Commerce.
Welcome, everyone.
Thank you. We wanted to take the opportunity tonight to quickly present the mock-ups for the new town banners. We hosted a contest this past March for high school students for the first time, and they were able to help design the banners for the town. Here tonight, we have one of the students. The other is unfortunately at college, but she's here in spirit. To recognize her, Christina McPhillips is here, and she designed the banner on the right. And we'd like to just call her up very quickly to give her a recognition. And then, Johnny, do you want to speak at all about the installment?
Yeah, so
So her banner is this one?
her banner is that one.
Okay.
And Shannon McNeese is that banner over there, the purple one. Currently, we're planning to pull down the other banners around May and then install these banners right around that same time, and also keep soliciting small business adoptions for the smaller banners that hang under these. Currently, the program is self-sufficient. It pays for itself with the help of the Chamber of Commerce. We've had a great relationship with the Chamber for the past few years, and Pam Nolan helped us set that all up. And now we've worked in the school department and working with the school students of designing our new banners so we can kind of pass it along to the next generation so they can kind of help beautify the town of Narragansett. So we just wanted to take this opportunity to kind of show you guys the new banners, get your consent/approval for us to continue this partnership with the school department and the Chamber of Commerce to kind of keep producing beautiful banners like these that can adorn our streets.
Great, and congratulations to the 2 students who have the final banners as well, so that's wonderful.
So if there's a
Anything
small
else?
business that wishes to have one, what's the procedure to do so?
So what we're going to do is we're going to send out a mailer in the next month or so to solicit adoptions for the smaller banners. It's a fee, one-time fee for the whole year, just about. And pretty much we'll send them out to all the small businesses or businesses throughout the town of Narragansett. It's for-profit businesses. And then we'll produce the smaller banners and hang them up for the year. So we try to kind of cherry pick out and send out a broad mailer to as many businesses as we can, but also at any point, it's on the Chamber of Commerce website. We can get it on the town website. I'm not sure if we had it on there in the past, but we've tried to push it out to as much word of mouth that we can to kind of produce all full adoptions. Last year was our first year that all the banners were adopted, so it was a very good, successful year. We hope we can continue that into the future years and keep all full adoptions throughout the whole center of town pier area. Any other questions?
Thank you. And is the, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, how much is it per year, per banner?
Right now, we're thinking like $200
200.
a banner for the whole full year.
Yep.
And that will be sitting on some of the most prime real estate in the town of Narragansett, right on the seawall.
Sure. Yeah, we're working on that one tonight. Yeah.
And we do plan to have an unveiling event once we know exactly when the installation is going to be in the spring. So we'll have the students come if they're available. We'll invite the media to come and be at one of the locations where the banners are going to be unveiled for the first time.
So would you inform the town clerk when
Absolutely.
that date is? That would be very helpful.
Yes.
And then the two banners, so are they both selected? I think I missed that, or we vote between the two? Or,
Nope, we just-
not us, but the community. These are the two winners.
Yep, these are the two winners from the student body. The student body and all of the teachers and some of the town hall people, and actually went out to all the council members at that time, were able to vote on their favorite designs, and we took the two most popular designs and recreated them into banners. So now these banners are going to be both in each color, and both banners will be hung on the seawall consecutively down the seawall, kind of like what we already have right now with the red and blue ones.
Great. Any other questions? Presentation. Well, thank you. They're great. Peg, is there anything you'd like to say from the chamber?
No, I just think that this team did a really, really terrific job. I'm coming into this late in the game, and hats off to what they did. They really did a nice job in organizing all of this. So looking forward to 100% participation.
All right, congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we have old business, and we also have a public hearing that we must have at 8 o'clock. Terry, is the stenographer here for the public hearing? Just so she can set up. What?
So we're going to pull these.
Diane Edson? No, she's not in the room yet.
Okay, but she is coming.
Yes,
Okay.
Probably trying to find a parking space.
maybe.
All right, so that has to take place at 8 o'clock. So at this time, we have the old business item of item number 10, a motion to authorize the staff to advertise the request for proposals for architectural engineering services relating to the library project, the conversion of the Belmont Market. Is there a motion?
Okay, Matt, since we, number 12,
Let's make the motion and second it and then discuss what we want to do. Is that all right?
I'd like to move to pull number 10 and number 11 from the agenda.
Okay, so you want to withdraw those?
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion to withdraw items number 10 and 11 from the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All right, all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, 5-0. All right, so we're going to then take the break and have it so for 8 o'clock instead of getting into the long discussion on new business. So unless, do you want to start it? All right, thank you.
Well, we've got 7 minutes. We can
Do we have a motion to continue a public hearing continued from December 3rd, 2018 on an application from Michael Vickers to amend Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, add a new section, Section 4.84, Boone Street Special District?
Move that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
The date of this is, I believe, March 4th. Is that correct? All right, so this is being moved to March 4th. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. And a motion to receive and place on file the recommendation from the Planning Board.
So moved.
Second.
Is discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. Next, we have a public hearing on the application from Generation Church to amend Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, for a text revision of Section 6.1 Table of Use Code Regulations and addition of new Section 12.22 addressing development standards for churches. First, I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open the hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. Welcome, Mr. Kenyon, and please just state your name for the record.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm John Kenyon, attorney for the applicant, Generation Church. With me tonight is Greg Pasamito, who's representing the church. We're here tonight on a public hearing for the applicant's request for 2 text amendments to the zoning ordinance. The current zoning ordinance under Use Code 764 permits churches in every zoning district along with the BA zoning district by special use permit. We're proposing an amendment to the table of use regulations to permit it in a BB zone by special use permit. That means if the ordinance is passed, an applicant would need to apply and receive site plan review approval from the planning board, as well as have a public hearing and obtain a special use permit from the zoning board. In addition, we're proposing a set of development standards under Section 12.22 of the zoning ordinance. Those standards require that the church be placed on a lot at least 30,000 square feet in size. It also provides for review and approval of the proposed parking, landscaping, wastewater management, trash disposal, lighting, and signage. We met with the planning board several times, and they had a number of suggestions, and we've included all their suggestions for the development standards. They gave a positive recommendation, and based on the fact that the proposed amendments were consistent with the comprehensive plan and the purposes of the zoning ordinance, they did request one additional development standard, that a traffic analysis be provided to the planning board, and we're in agreement with that. We're here to answer any questions. Greg, did you have anything else you wanted to add on the zoning ordinance amendment? And for clarification, it's a zoning ordinance amendment, so it's not a zoning map amendment. So it's not site-specific. It's for all the BB properties in the town.
This is also in line with a BA zone, right? Correct?
Well, it's in the BB zone, but it's also permitted by special use permit in the BA zone
with
now.
a special use permit, and we're just going to go in a BB zone with a special use permit.
That's correct.
Right.
Are there any other questions from the council? All right, hearing none, are there any anybody who wants to testify or weigh in on this topic? All right, seeing none. All right, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. So what we'll be looking for therein is a motion to approve the request and then to place a first reading of the ordinance on for February 4th. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. All right, thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Place it on file.
Yep, a motion to receive and place on file the recommendation from the planning board.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, the planning board recommendation, I believe, was unanimous. So I just wanted to put that on the record. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion approved 5-0. All right, item number 12, a motion to offer for sale the real property located at the former Belmont IGA building and 59 parking spaces, the library unit, and the building currently occupied by Pier Liquors and 9 parking spaces, the liquor store unit, and the strip of parking spaces abutting the Town of Narragansett Public Safety Building and running to Caswell Street, Parcel C, plus the additional real property described in the purchase and sales agreement approved by the Town Council on March 5th, 2018, and executed on March 12th, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Discussion. So this is an item that I had placed on the agenda. So we had the item for the RFP, which was withdrawn by Mr. Murray, which would have been for the for putting out, looking for architects for the old IGA/Belmont building. I call it the old IGA building, not the Belmont building. I remember the IGA. So I have put this item on because we need to make a decision one way or the other. We had our work session on Monday night, and subsequent to that, where we didn't really, there was no movement really on either side of the fence, that we cannot, we've been advised by our bond counsel that we have to make a decision one way or the other, that we can't sit on the property indefinitely. So I felt, let's put it out, offer it for sale, and see what comes in. So we're going to start discussion on this. So we'll hear from the council and then from members of the public. Just direct all your comments to me, and we'll try to stay within the time limits, and we'll go from there. So we'll go to the council.
I'll start. I do find it valuable to let the public know what the summary on some of these motions are. It's not publicly available on the smaller agenda that you get when you come in the front door, but we do have it in our packets, and if you look through the agenda, you have to dig really deep down to see the summary. Last meeting, Matt preferred for him to read it since it was his motion. Would you like to read it?
Yeah, thank you. I can read it. So this is what we call our blue sheet. This is our supporting, rationale, essentially, for what for the motion. So on March 5th, 2018, the former town council voted 3-2 to purchase the real property located at the former Belmont IGA building and 59 parking spaces, and the building currently occupied by Pier Liquors and 9 parking spaces, and the strip of parking spaces abutting the Town of Narragansett's Public Safety Building and running to Caswell Street for a total purchase price of $2,800,000. The purchase has been the subject of much controversy. In the November 2018 election, taxpayers made clear that they are uncomfortable with the level of borrowing that this project requires. Last year's town budget included 20-year projections of tax increases averaging approximately $400,000 per year to fund this project. The common area maintenance fees that the town must pay the former owner of the property represent a variable that was never resolved by the former council. In short, it was a bad decision to purchase the property in the first place, and this newly elected council should fix that mistake. Finally, what has been lost in this conversation to expand the library into a pseudo-community center is the importance of a library to learning and developing young people's research and analytical skills. A library should not be an event center, game room, or coffee house. Some may characterize this traditional view of a library as old-fashioned, but those basic old-fashioned skills that many of us acquired in libraries should be the focus of our efforts to improve our library. They have been and will continue to be my focus as we move forward to improve our library.
Thank you. Personally, I've found that very insightful and revealing, especially the last paragraph. So we've sat through a few months of meetings and workshops and endured this process with Matt and with the claim that he's been looking for compromise. And now we learn that the real issue here is that Matt Mannix doesn't think libraries should screen free movies. That's basically what it comes down to. I wish you had told us this from the outset, because we could have just told you that nobody cares. Because nobody cares about my opinion, nobody cares about Patrick's opinion or anyone's opinion up here. The voters elected everybody up here to serve as public servants, not as ideologues, not so we could pursue our personal agendas. Our opinions simply do not matter. We represent the people, we take their ideas, their decisions, and we act as facilitators to get things done. The last town council understood this, which is why when they saw that 67% of voters approved the $5.8 million bond specifically for the acquisition of real estate to be used for a new library. They took the necessary steps to buy the Belmont building. They understood their roles as elected officials and servants of the public. To be clear, Matt Mannix placed this item on the agenda to sell the Belmont building without any discussion with the full council and with no discussion with the library board. This item was placed with no warning. He made no attempt to come to the table and to compromise. In fact, when I asked him publicly last week what he'd be looking for in a compromise, he refused to answer and deflected by saying, "You tell me." When I told him Patrick and I were in support of removing the liquor store from the library building, he said that's not a compromise, but again offered nothing. Last week in an interview with the Narragansett Times, Matt made the following statement: "But the bigger reason I'm doing this is because we have to have a plan. And now that we've experienced the work session in which there was no move to the middle, I mean, I couldn't even get conversation on a very discrete, small part of which was the Pier Liquors part. That is a lie. We've all agreed to remove the Pier Liquors from the library. We've said it publicly multiple times. Matt just doesn't want you to know that fact." Here are a few other reasons Matt has given for his visceral need to sell the Belmont building. Number one, the Belmont building appraisal was too low. The fact is, there were two appraisals. The second one was right on point with the purchase price. There we go. $2,767,000. Second appraisal. Number two, parking. This is the reason Matt has brought up time and time again. He tells us that other businesses in the marketplace use the 59 spaces in front of the library for their employee parking, and then if the library has an event, where are the other business employees going to park? We can debate whether that is something we should be concerned about in the first place, but the real question is, what happens to those coveted parking spaces when you sell the property to a private buyer? Common area maintenance fees are variable. What he doesn't tell you is that these fees are not arbitrarily set by Gilbane Properties. They are based off the percentage of the full shopping center the town building occupies. I believe our percentage is about 40%. Is that right? The town is responsible for 40% of the total maintenance expenses for the shopping center. However, this expense can only go up if the total maintenance cost goes up, which means Gilbane's expenses would also go up. When you understand the details, you realize there isn't a real incentive to increase these fees, as Gilbane would be increasing them on themselves as well. So what's Matt's backup plan? Matt tells us that his plan is to renovate the existing library. Here's the real problem with that plan. We can't use the current bond money to do this because it's only for new acquisition of real estate. The bond requirement is that it be used to purchase real estate or land and to build or renovate a new library there. So how do you renovate the existing library? We'd have to get a new bond, and we would not be eligible for any state reimbursement. So it would be likely as or more expensive than the Belmont option. We wouldn't have enough parking. We probably have to have a two-story library, which experts recommend against. And let's face it, it's just not going to happen. So there you have it, all of Matt's reasons for wanting to sell this Belmont building. At minimum, questionable, mostly flawed, and now irrelevant. Matt Mannix doesn't like modern libraries, and he thinks he should be able to dictate these decisions to a town of 15,000 people. Jill Lawler sat up here on December 3rd last year and said, and I quote, "Do I want to put a for sale sign on the library building? No, I do not." So what's happened in 2 months? Jill is going to say these are the two reasons. She was under the impression that we were required to have a library that's 2,400 square feet. That was never the requirement. It was a recommendation from the state, not a requirement. And the library is going to be 1,800 square feet, so we're not even hitting that. Second reason, what if we go and start the building process, the renovation process, and there's unforeseen problems? One, we inspected the building. Two, it's not an especially old building. Three, all construction projects face that possibility. So if you're wondering what took 2 months for these 3 members of the council to decide to sell the building, I'll tell you why it took 2 months. It's a very simple plan. You tell the public it might be difficult, but you're open to getting the project done. Wait a couple months. Be open to options, but avoid compromise when it's offered. When the project falls through, you tell people that you tried, but the other side was unreasonable and not open to compromise. That was and has always been the strategy. So I'll leave you with this. The issue we're seeing right now is about a library, but it's really about so much more. It's about who controls local government. Do the people control the decisions or not? For those opposed to this referendum in the first place, what happens the next time you vote in favor of a question? Do you expect your elected officials to follow through? Are you okay with them ignoring the vote if it suits them? So no matter how this vote goes, I hope that everybody out there continues this fight and stays committed to this project. Until the building sells, this project continues. So I'm committed, I know Patrick is, and I hope everybody else is, because I can tell you from seeing the last few months that Narragansett does have a community. We see it here. I don't know if I've ever seen this many people interested and involved and putting the time and effort in that I'm seeing now. So please continue, and we'll do the same. So thank you. I'm sorry, but I do have one very quick thing to relay as well. We did receive a letter from Gilbane Properties. I don't know if it was yesterday or today. It's long, so I'm not going to read the entire thing. There are 2 parts of this letter that I think are important, and I'll read those excerpts. So these are quotes from the letter. Gilbane made concessions and accommodations to the form of sale and supporting a subdivision, all under the premise the town would be moving forward with building out the Belmont for the agreed upon use, the new town library. These concessions included additional footprint to allow for future building expansion, extraordinary cross easements, elimination of certain common area maintenance items, and overall cap on controllable common area expenses. These concessions would not have been made had it not been planned for the town's new library use. The specter of this town council reneging on the previous council's vote by now voting to sell the building is shocking, extremely disingenuous, and completely counter to the spirit of cooperation that led to the fulfillment of the citizens' majority vote to house the new library in the center of town at the Belmont. It is contrary to the intent of both the seller and buyer, who negotiated in good faith and made extraordinary concessions with the clear and unambiguous understanding this building would be used as a library. It's not the full letter, but in my impression is that it alludes to misrepresentation in the deal and would definitely open the town to possible legal action. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pugh. Is there anyone else from the council?
Go ahead, guys. Go ahead. I'm not going
Rick.
to follow him. I can't follow that.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. You should speak.
So from the beginning, sitting in the audience 2 years ago, I heard about this remarkable place called the Tiverton Library. And if you haven't been there, you should go. It's amazing. It's amazing what they've done. It's a state-of-the-art structure. It has beautiful wooded area, a grand view with green space. As you enter, a playground, a ball field, a skateboard park, plenty of area for children to play. One of the impressive things for me was, has a drive-through window. So parents with their children in their vehicles can actually drive up, drop stuff off. What a great idea. Well-planned building. If you build things, you definitely would like to go over there and take some advice from the Tiverton Library. I came back to Narragansett and I said, wow, why can't we build a brand new structure from scratch? Why? Yes, it's a lot of money, but a brand new structure, state of the art, everything the way you want it, planned from the beginning just the way you want it. The future of a building that doesn't need a lot of cost repairs. Solar. Jesse likes solar. I like solar. Everybody's into the green space. Why wouldn't we look at that avenue? And why wouldn't we do that in Narragansett? Yes, it would take to rebond. There's no question about it. And it would take a little bit of time. For me, I am about putting in an RFP for a spot in Narragansett to do this. Tiverton Library is 4 miles from the center of their town. And you can see why they put it where they put it. As you drive in, look around, you'll see. We have a location in this town that I'm going to recommend. People asked me at the last meeting I went to, what's Plan B? Well, I've been thinking about Plan B. You asked me? I went out there and I thought about it. I looked at Clark Road, a piece of property that this town owns. No fees, nothing on it. Something that we could build a brand new structure. Outdoor activities for both our young children and our seniors. A building that could be state of the art. You wanted a Plan B, there's a Plan B. It would cost us less money in the long run to do a brand new structure than it would be to get into Belmont and pay the fees throughout the course of the years ahead of us. The other thing I look at Belmont is, it's an old grocery store warehouse building. Where are you going to take your children? Out to the parking lot? Put a blanket down and read a book? I don't know. Tiverton Library is something that everybody should be looking at. It's a state of the art and it's the future of libraries. So that's my Plan B, and I'm willing to put an RFP in at the next meeting to move forward with it. If this council wants to move forward with it, I'm fine. If they don't, then fine. But there's a Plan B. Thank you.
Thank you. Our other council members, Jill or Patrick?
Okay, sure, thank you. So Jesse, you're correct. I did say in December that I do not want to put a for sale sign on the building, but you'll also remember I also said that I wanted to have some meetings to find out more information, to gather more facts. And that's what I did. I met with OLIS, I met with our bond counsel. And with OLIS, yes, I did learn that the building did not need to be as large as we purchased. It had nothing to do with population. And yes, you're right. I also would say that there may be unforeseen issues coming up when we build. But I think the thing that I found, and it took longer for me to understand this when we were talking about a new library, is the concept of a modern library and what that really meant. And I found that out when we were speaking with OLIS. The concept of a modern library, I can see how that fits in many larger cities and towns, larger than 15,000 people. We're a small seaside community. We're a small town. If everybody here and everybody at home closes your eyes and thinks about all the buildings you see in Narragansett, do you see town-owned buildings that you would call modern or top of the line? Patrick, you've said in paper recently that we're looking at more like a $10 million project. Look at our town hall. Look at our community center. We just don't see it there. So as I began to think about it more, I got to the point where I was looking at we're duplicating services. What the Library Board of Trustees was really looking to do was to build a community center, which I understand is their same idea of a modern library. But the town residents, the town voters did not vote to give the authority for the Library Board of Trustees to build a community center. And quite frankly, the reason they didn't do that is we have a community center. And I know that we have a lot of people here that do not like to be called that they're a special interest group, but you are. We have maybe throughout the town, maybe 15 to 20 special interest groups, be you Little League, be you anyone from tennis. But there are many people that have a certain area that they do believe needs to be enriched by the town. So if we take a look at our community center, many activities happen there. So what I look at now is the modern library, our current library, and our community center. Why not have a traditional library and a traditional community center? We can repurpose very easily some of the activities that the Library Board of Trustees are talking about having in the library over to the community center. That then would also open up those rooms to families to use on the weekends at night. But ultimately, I just don't believe that the town has enough funds and availability to be able to over-improve one building at the expense of others. So for that reason, I'm looking at the facts. I'm not looking at, I understand a lot of emotions, a heck of a lot of social media we've seen, but if we really take a look at the facts, we take a look at the dollars and the finances of the town and what all the other buildings and all the other special interest groups in this town need. We have a community center where we have a senior center as well. You know, seniors are getting younger these days. It's no longer the traditional have lunch, have a knitting group. There are yoga classes, things like this that we could offer to seniors. If we want to take a look at our town and we want to expand what our growing base is, that is the seniors. And seniors are becoming more active and are looking for different types of services. So yes, what I would like to do is take a look at selling this building. I believe that Patrick did a fantastic job when he took the building and made it no longer a condo. The building certainly is worth more than we paid for it. Personally, I'd love to see that money put directly toward the existing library, and that would be my plan B, to be able to build out the existing library, take many of the community center services offered at that library that are vitally important to our town, but put them over at our community center so we're not duplicating efforts. We're not trying to steal, if you will, people from one program to another. We have plenty of space over there. We can take out a bond. Laura Kenyon has told us that we can, every fiscal year, take out 3%, I believe, of our total budget. We could take that bond money out and put it toward our community center so we'd have a good library, traditional library, and we'd have a good community center, traditional community center. Oh, and as far as one more point, Jesse, about the letter that you read from Mr. Gilbane, I know I'm probably the only person who didn't grow up here, but I do believe that the town of Narragansett was given a lot of promises by Mr. Gilbane for the development of the center of town. And I don't know, the letter that you just read is kind of like calling the kettle black.
Thank you. Patrick.
Yes. Okay, good evening. Glad to see everybody made it. Yeah, as far as the Gilbane letter of record there, I think he may have seller's remorse. That's a classic case. I said I think Gilbane has seller's remorse. Okay, I have a little presentation, yet another one, about the cost. I'm going to go over this one more time. I've been doing this in my sleep. There's the 2527 Pier Marketplace. This is the projected cost over 20 years. These numbers haven't changed in over 18 months since we've been talking about this. This has been scored and rescored recently, and these numbers are still valid. Again, we added the interest. Hang on a minute, I got to find that dot. There's a dot here somewhere. Okay, the 5.8 million, right, on the top line. With interest is 8 million, 8.1 million. We got the liquor store note, which is almost 500. Additional utility costs from the current location to the Belmont. We estimate it will be 370,000 over a 20-year period. Lost tax revenue. We baked everything into this $10.5 million cake because I wanted to know what the future cost of this project was going to cost, what kind of impact it had. CAM charges. That certainly was a concern for me. When we were going to purchase it as a condo, the CAM charges were $78,000 a year. But under ownership, Gilbane carved out 1.22 acres, and ownership of that lot, we were able to drop that down to $38,000 a year. I rounded up to 40 times 20, which is $800,000 over 20 years. Now, currently, the liquor store is paying that, but we'll get to that. But my point here is 20-year cost, 10.5, 10.6 million. Okay. The reimbursement, right now, and again, it's said that OLS could reimburse up to 50% of the build-out costs and the purchase. And their average is 43%. I used 40% on these numbers, the low end. Now, the reimbursement from fundraising is about 1.2 to 1.4. So the adjusted cost after reimbursement is 7.2. All right. The average homeowner, net 20-year cost of 7.2. The yearly cost is 360 in the paper. Councilman Mannix references 400,000. We're going to stay with that number, but with partial reimbursement, that number goes down to 360. For an average home, of course it's a year old, but the average home about 410,000. Over 20 years, it'll cost you $660. Yearly is $33 a year. So whatever your assessment is, if you get a $500 assessment on your home, it's 8 cents per thousand. That's $40 a year. So everybody can do that math. Okay, funding sources. We authorized a bond back in November 2016. Fundraising, about 1.2, 1.4. Total funding of $7 million. I skipped one. Hang on a minute. I'm going to talk about this liquor store. There it is. Okay. We currently lease out the liquor store, and all this scoring, the 10.5, all this scoring over the last 18 months never included the liquor store. I've never said the liquor store has to move out or we're going to throw them out. That is untrue. I would like to keep them there because, as you can see, the gross lease is approximately $60,000 a year. They're paying the CAM charges of $38,000 a year. So we're netting about $22,000 a year, which can go towards the maintenance of the entire building. So let's not kick them out. Okay? All right. Now, for me, I've approached several businesses and one grocery store, and there's interest in leasing out the old library. Now, under the current market value per square foot, a modified gross lease is right around $20 per square foot, and that's very reasonable. It'd probably take $300,000 to $500,000 to grub out that building, turn it into 3,000 square foot units for a total of 9,000 square feet, which the gross would be about $180,000 a year. Now, I like putting aside for maintenance of the building and, just standard maintenance. So we should be able to net $125,000 to $135,000 a year, which will knock down that $400,000 a year cost, offset that cost for the next 20 years and beyond. Okay. All right, here's a little breakdown. This is the 62, this is a 2019-2020 budget, $62.5 million. I think this guy hacked my computer. I'm sorry about that. He's the computer expert.
Yeah, a little web design for you.
Yeah. Anyway, the black line all the way to the left represents 1% of next year's budget. Okay? 400,000, which my number's 360, but let's use 400,000 because Laura Kenyon, as an accountant, cannot use donated money, cannot use promised money. She needs real dollars in her hand. So it's $400,000 a year, which is 0.64%. Remember, the black line is 1% of a $62.5 million budget. $400,000 a year for the next 20 years is 0.64%. It's 64% of that black line. Okay. Now, this guy must have stole my idea because I got the top 10 reasons, Mannix reasons. Sorry, Matt. I took from your article in the paper on Friday and just kind of went over each one. So, number one, paid too much for the building. Jesse addressed that. We do have a updated appraisal from Indolfo Appraisal Services for $2.77 million, which is within $33,000 of what we paid for the building. CAM charges, again, we went over that, paid by the liquor store. No plan moving forward. Well, we had the plan. It was to do the RFP. That was the plan, you know. Pick out an architect and start the building process. Okay, 68% of the vote did not, this is your quote, Matt, did not signify a special showing of support. I don't know, I wish I got 67% of the vote. I don't know how much is needed for a bond, 80, 90%, what's enough? But it's curious, Matt, and I hate to do this to you, but you know, you came in third and you had enough of a mandate to take the presidency away from the kid here. So, number 5, the liquor store, problematic and clumsy. Well, Rinaldi and I, Councilman Rinaldi, back in 15, proposed the O'Brien wing of the Mumford School, and that was, we tried for 6 months to go to that location. It was denied. It's empty, it's the right size, it's got a clear span. We could have dissected it, but anyway, that's water under the bridge. The problem with the library, we just can't, we need a building that is built for 300 pounds per square foot. The community center, that's 150 pounds per square foot. Supermarkets are similar to libraries. They have shelves, and the shelves hold weight. It's built. The library is perfect for the Belmont Market is perfect for the library because they're built in the same construction. So, and as far as the liquor store, you know, the entrances are on opposite sides of the building. If we had an RFP, we could have addressed that with the architect, and they could have disguised or kind of, you know, put some kind of trellis or something to kind of break up the library from the retail space that we own. So it wasn't a bridge too far. Definitely not a deal killer. The dilapidated community center. I'm in that building once a week for Boy Scouts. You know, I'm usually late, but I do get there. The building just had an insurance claim because the soil pipe busted. The whole lower half has been rehabbed in 2017. And it had a new furnace, I think like 2 or 3 years ago. So I don't think, I mean, it's a little shabby on the outside. It definitely needs some siding, and it does have a couple drainage issues, but I'm going to try to turn that into an Eagle Scout project. But we'll work on that. But I don't think that it's as bad, Matt, as you think. I mean, it's, you know, it certainly needs some work, but it's not a total basket case, not like my house. But, all right, number 7, no modern library or community center of activities. I can't see spending all that money and just have a bunch of books with dust, and I don't even know if you can buy dust. You know, I mean, I just don't, I couldn't understand that comment, Matt. I mean, I have no answer for that one. I really don't. I didn't understand that. All right, you quoted in the paper, we have a $2.8 million hole in the budget. That's not true. You're correct. It's costing us $400,000 a year. All right? That's the hole in the budget, $400,000 a year. The 2.8 hole is in our reserve. We had 13%. We took 2.8 to buy the building. Now we have a 10% reserve. And as long as we have an action plan, which was the RFP, hiring an architect, bond counsel see this all the time. often municipalities dip in their reserve to kickstart road projects, school projects, library projects. This is the norm. They're used to seeing that. Where they may have hesitation is that we buy a building and 4 months later we put it back on the market. That they may have a problem with that, because if that building sits for 6 months, they're going to be scratching their heads down there at the council. So, you know, so once the bond is sold, takes about 3 months, the 2.8 goes back into the reserve. So this is a normal process. It's not, you know, it's not clunky, it's not a disaster, it's just a normal process that this council could handle easily. Parking in the pier. Okay, the whole parking issue, I believe it's another canard. It's another thing that's ginned up for another reason not to move forward. As long as I can remember, parking has always been premium in the pier. You know, you get a couple nights a week, you know, you better bring a motorcycle or prepare to walk. And the planning board never brought it up. We have 68 parking spaces. We got 9 for the liquor store. We got another, you know, 59 for the library section. And they had no problem with it. It zipped right through planning. Nobody brought it up. Nobody had an issue with it. So I didn't understand that one. And again, I agree with my esteemed colleague over here. What's your name again? Jesse. The new guy. Refit the current location. It still does not address the size. We have 15, 17 parking spaces over there. We have a children's room that has 15, 17 spots for a town that's 15,000 people. I mean, it's standing room. There's more problems, you know, there with standing room only than the parking issue in the pier, you know? So, and then again, there'll be no reimbursement from OLIS, and that bond, that 5.8 bond that everyone approved, is location specific. So I think that's it. Yeah, that's about it. So I got a couple more things. Yeah, you stood up for him. Anyway. A lot of work is going into this. Hours and hours of man hours by the staff who've been very helpful. I mean, I couldn't. I can't tell you how accommodating the staff has been. Although I think Jeff at one point wanted to get a restraining order, but I think that was dropped. But it was a lot of work dissecting a piece of land from the pier. And I've said this before. For me, it's consecrated ground. I remember the old pier. It was 47 years to the month when we purchased it, when we closed on the Belmont building in October of last year. And for me, as a sitting councilman, to correct a 50-year wrong and then provide a different pier, a more dynamic pier, for the next 100 years for my son, my daughter, their families, and future families, and then rehabbing the old library, and giving a shot in the arm to local businesses. Because I talked to at least 5 different businesses, and all were on board, saying, yeah, I mean, if that's something that you can do, I'd be more than interested. And then it keeps coming up, well, the town shouldn't be in the rental business. Good God, we rent cabanas out every summer for the last 100 years. A modified gross 20-year lease, after you refit the building, it's on autopilot. They're going to give us the check, and think they're getting away with something. You won't hear a peep out of them. So, I don't know. I just think we have an opportunity here, and if it's lost, I just have no words for the disappointment that I feel, and many of us feel. It's sad, and you just got to pay attention to local town politics. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will, is there anyone from the public who would like to address this item? Richard.
Hi, my name is Richard Vangermish, 55 Osceola. I think, first of all, it's a shame that for the second time Patrick withdrew his motion, because his motion said an awful lot. He said the Belmont market, which is what the taxpayers voted for, or the people who voted for that. And that's an important difference. If that particular motion had come up and passed, I think obviously number 12 would be moot. And I just want to remind people again, even though I must say I've said it quite a few times, I really protest the use of the word, of the term Belmont building. This is a new term. And I must say that there are 3 separate, unconnected structures there. The Belmont Market, a separate liquor store not connected to the market, and what I call the Thing on the 2nd floor, which is, to me, I characterize as only useful for an indoor shuffleboard court. This is what is looked at, 3 separate, unconnected buildings. And to say that's the Belmont building is, I think, misleading. And if Patrick's motion had passed, I wouldn't be speaking. I would have spoken to his motion because it was a specific RFP. What I suggest to everybody here is time for mediation. And that I think is helpful. We have gotten terms confused, the Belmont Market, then the Belmont Building. Believe me, if you want to see something strange, go up to the 2nd floor. It looks beautiful outside. If there ever were beautiful architecture, it is there. The architecture is beautiful outside. You go inside and you go, huh? The stairways are out of medieval times. Purely could have been done in the 13th century. It is not accessible. It is, in my view, only good for an indoor shuffleboard. We have just got to realize that we purchased an indoor shuffleboard court, and heavens forbid this is a disaster. So please, let's try mediation. I went to the meeting last Monday, and what struck me here is both groups are not communicating with each other at all. And what is really a shame, Patrick's motion probably would have passed 5-0 or 4-1, because this can work. It's not ideal, the Belmont Market as a library.
Thank you, Richard.
But at least it can work.
Thank you, Richard. Wynn?
Hi, I'm Wynn Hames from, I live at 30 Wood Avenue. I'm here to ask you to remove this agenda item from the agenda. And to go forward with the construction and the renovation of the new library. As you are probably aware of, and I believe Mark should be aware of it, There was a voter initiative petition filed last Friday. Right, Mark?
Direct your comments here.
Yep, okay. Right, Matt?
Yes.
Okay.
It was.
With the voter petition, it goes to the town clerk, then to Mark to review it. They send it to you to review it. Then it goes back to the town clerk, and then we have 120 days to gather 12% of the last eligible voters, or last voters in the last election. We have over that as far as signatures right now. We have over 1,000 signatures. The petition is going to be presented to you. If it comes back to you again and you don't act on it, it goes back to the electorate, and the only thing they can do is vote up or down on it, yes or no. It will pass. What you would do is delay this till the 2020 election. It would cost this town a lot of money. There would be nothing you could do to stop it. We will get injunctions to prevent you from selling the building while this is in progress. So, I ask you for the good of this town to remove this agenda item, talk amongst yourselves, move this forward. We don't want a plan B or a plan B. We want what we voted for on 2 years ago, 4 years ago, and that's how long this has been going on.
Thank you.
Hi. Hi, my name is Paul Selwyn. I live at 1483 Ocean Road. I'm one of the few people in Narragansett that actually had a house and a beach house in the same town. That's how crazy I was. I came up here tonight and I saw there were more police in here than East would look on a Saturday night in the springtime. And I was wondering, like, what am I going to? I thought I was going to a town council meeting. Mr. Mannix, I want to thank you for finally putting your cards on the table. You're going to need to get $3 million for that building just to break even, to pay a realtor's fee. I don't believe that's possible unless someone has a buyer in their pocket already, and that's what's going on here. Or two, you want to just waste more time and kick the can down the road so that we can't get any of the money from the bond. Either way, that's all I see that's going to happen there. There's nobody that wants to go there. I work at the Aqua Blue Hotel. This place is dead in the winter. This place is dead at the end of the summer. The Coast Guard house started closing early on Wednesday and Thursday night, in the third week of August. So I don't see how you're going to be able to get anyone to come here to do anything with that building. So that's why I'm not really worried about that. But I just want to say one final thing here. As for some of the new members up here, you came to a meeting at the library during the primaries, and you led some of us to believe that you might be open to our side. And obviously that's not the case. So I want to tell you right now, enjoy your 2-year stay here, because on November 8th of 2020, I am personally going to be sitting with a candidate that I'm going to go out and recruit. I am going to organize his campaign, and I am going to lead it. And if you don't believe I have the capability to do that, then I suggest you talk to James Durkin, and he'll explain it to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Patty Arkwright. I'm the library director at the Maury Lugents Memorial Library. I wanted to bring into the discussion the part where some of the council members have decided to define what a library needs to be. I have a professional degree from the University of Rhode Island, and that's where I had my training of how to operate a library and how to determine policies, practices, that kind of thing. One of the things we're taught is that the community is the part that defines what a library is. And this community has defined it by coming to the programs, showing that they want these programs, and they're not just duplication of services. That's what the community needs because they're not being met elsewhere. Libraries are a welcoming place. Other places, such as senior centers, don't welcome everyone. The community center that we have, again, is limited use, and the library does not limit the use. We have access to all, and that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy DiNuccio, 8 Vanderbilt Drive. You've said that you represent the voters of Narragansett. What voters? Not the ones that we encountered this past weekend. Over 3 days of this winter's worst weather, volunteers have come out of the woodwork to gather signatures of voters who do not want the Belmont building sold. I have in my possession the petitions with 949 signatures of angry and upset people who cannot believe that after years of effort to obtain a location for a new library, it would be sold out from under the library proponents. There are also 41 voter signatures on an online petition. Non-Narragansett voters who use the Narragansett Library and want to see the project move forward have submitted 161 paper petitions and 29 online signatures. Altogether, this adds up to 990 signatures from Narragansett voters and a total of 1,180 in total. So we'd like to know the names of the people and voters who approve your sale. I'll hand these to the clerk.
Please do. Welcome.
I'm Gina Jarama, 99 Saltaire Avenue, and I would like to speak on behalf of my 4 children who use the library 4 to 5 times a week. I don't know much about the background of town governance, but I do know a lot about civic discourse, and I also know a lot about libraries. I actually covered Patty's maternity leave in 1992 and was the children's librarian in that library. I watched a lot of those kids come and go, and as they grew, I became their teacher. So the library is more than what you define a library for. It is a community of people, not a community center. And the library fills the void that schools and senior centers and other civic organizations are unable to. We do not have a Boys and Girls Club here. We have a YMCA in our neighboring town. Our children are very active in this community, and parents support the library. I know a lot about library services. I spent 5 years working in libraries. I respect every decision that the library board has made over the last 8 years with respect to improving our library. I would never expect you guys to be the experts on libraries. That's what the board is. And I don't know any other time that the town council has gone against a board and their recommendations. I don't think any recreation board has ever given you recommendations that was in process, you know, and you guys said, oh no, I'm sorry, I think we're done with that one. We're gonna find an alternative. There is no alternative. If OLIS decides that this library is not making enough progress, if they decide that we have been given waiver after waiver for our ADA compliances and all the other issues that that library has had since 1992 when I worked there, then they will shut us down. And where will our kids go? My children like the library. We are there all the time. They will not have access to the library services across the state if our library is shut down. So move forward, continue the progress that the professionals have made. They know what they're doing. They vetted all the locations in this town. They gave us viable options. I would never, ever overstep my bounds, but I know what I'm good at. I'm not good at deciding what libraries are. They are. And I think your job as town governance should be to respect the board's wishes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Schaefer at 33 Old Pine Road. So I'm an architect. I'm not going to debate what is good architecture, modern architecture, or what makes a good library or not a good library. But I'm going to bring some facts to the table regarding the design and construction process. In that process, time is the enemy of cost. So fiscal responsibility is your goal. This vote is against your goal. Patrick Murray gave a good example of the fiscal responsibility of this project. Plan B, reconstructed Tiverton Library. That was $11 million. If we start Plan B today, best case scenario, that project is completed 5 years. Pulling Turner Construction data, 5.86% is cost of construction inflation. $11 million over 5 years, that's $14.6 million. $3.6 million of the cost just for delaying for Plan B. So any other alternative from this point forward needs to take account all construction inflation cost and to add to that deficit from the number that Mr. Murray presented. That's all I have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Maura Katoya, 57 Edgewater Road. So I'm a mom here in Narragansett. I have 2 small kids. We spend a lot of time at the library. In fact, I wouldn't mind saying that I probably incur more than $33 of late fees. So that $33 that you mentioned, Patrick, I wouldn't mind paying because I spend a lot of time dropping off my late fees there. Sorry about that. So instead of putting my kids to bed tonight, I'm here because I think it's very important that you see people like me, small children. We spend so much time at the library, and I think that it's important that it is part of our community. I agree with everyone that's come up here and talked about that. We are spending our time. My daughter took her first steps at the library. We are there every other week dropping off our library books. We think it's as valuable as our education. So I think that you have to start looking at the rest of the community here. You have to start looking at everyone saying, why are we choosing to not go forward? We voted for this. This is something that we as a community want. We're out here. We're representing ourselves. Think of us while you're making these choices, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Harry Schofield, 9 Atlantic Avenue. You know, in the 40 years I've lived here, this town has always lacked long-term vision. And we deal with issues like this that come up, take a year, take all the emotion out of the room, and everybody's so polarized, there's no common thinking, and there's no real decision process that's worthy of the kind of money this costs. As best I can see, over the year this has been debated, this whole project has been driven 90% by emotion and about 10% at best by good financial planning. And I'm sorry, Patrick, I didn't see in your clever financial slides there actually the build-out cost of this. I've never seen any good estimates of that other than what the town manager presented some months ago. So my view is I commend Matt and Jill and Rick for saying, let's put the brakes on here and take a look at this. Maybe there is a better use of this. Maybe there is a better place for the library. I'm not here to say what a library should or shouldn't contain, but I don't believe it needs to contain things that can be as well suited in a community center that is run and supervised by the town government and not by a library board that has independence and the level of, zealousness I've seen in this town for the past year. So I commend you for that. I would say that any other use of the building should be in concert with a town plan, and I proposed this at this microphone for years, that the pier is in dire need of a top-down plan by an outside firm with expertise to come in and say, hey, as you start moving pieces around, not just the market building, but the empty theater, a substandard hotel, and on and on and on as to how can you better use it. What's the best plan for this town? And within that plan, what's the best way to accommodate the essential functions of a library and not ancillary functions that a library board might like to ingratiate its place and power in the town? I, as a taxpayer, don't want to see that. I want to see fiscal discipline applied to every dollar we spend. We approved $5.8 million. I would say if these people who want the library can support how they're going to get it there for the $5.8 million, then I guess we should consider building it, providing for $5.8 million we can meet the obligations of OLS and those people who know what a library should be. And if they can't do that, then we should find another usage for it. And I support you folks, Matt, Jill and Rick, for bringing this up and taking the heat and standing up. And these people who have come up here tonight and threatened, people who are new members of the council, just push that aside and recognize what that is. What that is a form of bullying. So don't put up with it. You're starting a career here. You have 2 years. Stick to your guns, and let's make this money accountable, or let's do something else with the building. I was encouraged a few months ago to see that Friends of Canarsie, working with the Narrow River Group, have approved a plan. They funded a plan to improve a park-like situation at the river. Well, take the lead from them. Do something with the pier here that has a top-down, long-range view of what we'd really like it to be, and go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The screaming out, it needs to stop. It needs to stop.
Patricia Cole, 20 Bayberry Road in Narragansett. I'd like to quote from the summary of the motion to put the Belmont site up for sale written by Mr. Mannix. Quote, "What has been lost in this conversation to expand the library into a pseudo-community center is the importance of a library to learning and developing young people's research and analytical skills." Well, that's a perfect description of a university or a school library. I find it hard to believe that your definition of a public library is so archaic. It makes me wonder if you have ever visited a modern state-of-the-art public library. Anyone who has knows that a public library is so much more than a quiet place for study and honing research and analytical skills. A public library serves all the needs of its community, from babies to seniors, and our town librarians know best what those needs are. The Belmont site offers the space in which the public library that our community wants, not what you want, Mr. Mannix, can become a reality. I'd like to call your attention to the Narragansett Code of Ethics. In section 6.1.1, titled Public Office as a Public Trust, it states, quote, "In treating your office as public trust, public servants should diligently and in good faith pursue the public interest to the best of their ability and subordinate self-interest to the public good." Given the outpouring of support for the library over the last 2+ years, can you honestly say that you have, in good faith, pursued the public interest? Putting the library site up for sale, the site that this community believed was for our new library, is an outrageous betrayal of public trust. No, what has been lost in this conversation to expand the library is the real reason for the refusal of some members of this council to respect the will of the people. I urge you to vote no to the sale of the Belmont site. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Janice Holly from Narragansett. Before I read what I wrote, I would like to say, Jill, location, location, location. And we lost the ambiance we had at the pier years ago with what they did. And we now have the chance to have a beautiful library there. I wrote this piece, and I've sent it to the local papers. I don't know if it's going to be published, but this is what I'm going to read to you. I am shocked the town council might be voting to sell the Belmont building. I thought the town had purchased that building for our new library. I'm also shocked to hear town council members say many residents of Narragansett are against the library. I'm a resident who knows how important it is to have a good library. Towns all over this country have libraries, and people love libraries. I volunteer for CASA. It's a court-appointed special advocate. I observe parental visits in libraries. Last week, I walked into the Warwick Library on Sandy Lane. The beautiful wide corridors of the entrance was amazing. I thought of our tiny library in Narragansett, and I thought someday we will have a library like this. No kidding, that's really what came to my mind. And today, I'm hearing the council may vote to sell the library, the building, the Belmont building. When is the last time you used a library? A library is not just a place where you borrow a book. And I wrote this poem. Let me remind you what a library is. It's a quiet place where all other places seem loud. It's a gathering place where people smile at each other. It's a meeting place, meetings important and unimportant. It's a place where words float through the air, and if you listen, you can hear them. It's a place where young children learn the wonder of the written word. It is a place where children in need do their homework. It is a place where seniors in need read in the company of others. It is a place of solace in this fast-paced world. The Pier area was once destroyed. This is a chance to redeem dignity in that area. A beautiful library is the answer. Build the library in the Belmont building, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Kopek, and I live at 963 Point Judith Road. That's a hard act to follow. A lot of what I had planned to say has already been said by many other people, so I'm going to sort of skip to what a library means to me so that you understand something. So Mr. Mannix said in his motion, what has been lost in this conversation to expand the library into a pseudo-community center is the importance of a library to learning and developing young people's research and analytical skills. A library should not be an event center, game room, or a coffee house. Mr. Mannix imposes his opinion of what a library should and should not be, and apparently is not a proponent of lifelong learning, as I am. My opinion of what a library should be is based on current personal experience, although frankly, like so many people here, I've used libraries continuously for 60 years. The skills that I acquired and helped others acquire are as varied as mentoring a Narragansett resident through a Board of Health licensure process to enable her to obtain gainful employment using library computers. Attending free educational lectures to learn about the history of Washington County. I've never been to one of these great opportunities for local education that didn't have a wait list for attendees. I've attended a debate, bought books at a book fair, borrowed hardcover books, audio books, and ebooks, numbering over 40 separate items this year alone. But I've also been in many other libraries in the last year, in Cranston, Warwick, Bristol, 2 in South Kingstown, to attend meetings, participate in lectures, mentor adults, and borrow materials. The libraries are all in compliance with state and town occupancy regulations, unlike ours, taking advantage of available grant money, and they are all modern. Oh, and there are no coffee houses or game rooms, just free opportunities for learning. I am deeply concerned that this motion lacks any explanation about a potential sale. This property has been empty for going on 6 years. Why would any commercial operation purchase it? After all, 67.9% of the residents would certainly have no use for a commercial venture owned by someone who stole their potential for a decent institution of learning in the center of town. I know I wouldn't. And if there is no secret potential client, then the residents of this town end up with a nearly $3 million albatross around our necks when all we have been looking for is a verifiable plan from a professional architect so we can move forward and get onto other business in this town that isn't wrapped up in the political and personal view of the self-proclaimed town council president. I believe you should rescind this motion and go back to Mr. Murray's motion and pass that one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Laura Sastic. I live on 202 Bellevue Court. I would like to give a statement expressing my support for the new library. This town needs a new library. It would be a major asset for everyone in our community. Events at libraries bring communities together. Libraries are places of education that must be respected. It would benefit our community greatly having a new library. Renowned writer David McCullough has said, "I think the public library system is one of the most amazing American institutions, free for everybody. If you ever get the blues about the status of American culture, there are still more public libraries than there are McDonald's. During the worst of the Depression, not one public library closed their doors. If the Belmont building is not used as a new library, our town will have missed a great opportunity. I ask those who want to sell the Belmont building to please reconsider and not sell it. It is meant to be our town's new library. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Good evening, Town Council. My name is Robert Shields, live at 37 Earls Court. I was dismayed when I first read this motion and I read the summary part of the motion in detail. It seems to me that you were planning to sell a building that was purchased specifically for town library purposes, and it should not be the view of a few irrational individuals to swipe 10 years of efforts by the library board of trustees into the trash bin. The board has diligently and in compliance with the State Office of Library and Information Services, called OLIS, it has worked to develop a coherent plan to expand the present library following the advice of previous town councils. Mr. Mannix, the sponsor of this motion, who is the sponsor of this motion, has no idea what services today libraries provide. That's obvious. In spite of the fact that just 1 week ago, OLIS's director explained what those obligations are to the town council in a work session. Furthermore, he has has clearly never read the consultant's report. Have you, Mr. Mannix?
Yes, I have.
And it meant nothing. Clearly, he has decided that a cost of $33 per year of additional taxes on the typical household is too much indebtedness. By the way, That does not include the 40 to 50% reimbursement from the state. Mr. Mannix appears to believe that the library should primarily help, and I'm quoting, developing young people's research and analytical skills. May I suggest that that schedule should be carried out by the school board? That's not a library function. I beg to differ with you.
Thank you, Mr. Shields.
May I suggest that the schools are responsible for that? How about providing for the needs of adult residents, seniors, summer visitors, attendees of meetings and public talks, and those needing ADA access? The board is most definitely not in it trying to become a pseudo community center. It is not a pseudo anything, Mr. Mannix. It is a library.
Thank you, Mr. Shields. Your time is up. Thank you.
Nancy LaPasta Frazier, 71 West Bay Drive. I'm angry. I'm angry that I live in a town where our elected officials actively work to overturn the will of the people. In 2016, 5,109 citizens, not members of a special interest group, voted in favor of a $5.8 million bond for a new library building. That happens to be 1,300 more affirmative votes than Mr. Pugh, our highest vote getter, received in 2018. That 1,300 differential just increases for the rest of the council. There wasn't a question on the 2018 ballot asking us if we were uncomfortable with the level of borrowing. There is simply no data to support Mr. Mannix's contentions. Only the 5,109 votes count. The will of the people was made very clear in 2016. And it's morally reprehensible for this current council to disenfranchise me and the other 5,108 members of my fellow citizens. Mr. Mannix, Mrs. Lawler, and Mr. Lima, all it takes is for one of you to break with the other two and vote the people's will. Frankly, if this motion passes, we might as well dismantle the Welcome to Narragansett sign at the Rotary and erect a tombstone which says, Narragansett, where democracy died January 22nd, 2019. I should quit while I'm ahead, but I do have one more thing. I've heard about the desire to have a traditional library, thereby ignoring the advice of the experts. I beg you, please stop watching the Music Man movie. Marion the Librarian and the River City Traditional Library is outdated, outmoded, and belongs back in the 20th century. We deserve better.
Lynn Derbyshire, 9 Linden Road. A, what she said. B, I have been an educator for almost 50 years. When we speak about libraries being a place for learning, research, and acquiring analytic skills, I have to say that research over the decades that I have been in higher education, pedagogical research says that what we are referring to as the ancillary activities of the library are essential to enhancing the research and learning of research and analytical skills for our students. So they are not ancillary, but rather essential activities for a library to serve. However, I think all of that is a moot point in this discussion because, as Councilman Pugh said at the very beginning, citizens speak with their vote, and 67% of us have already told you what we want. So I'm utterly flummoxed as to why we are having this endless conversation. Let us move the RFP and get the library that 67% of us asked for.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carter Starr, 23 2nd Street. First, Patrick, good presentation. The $135,000 that we get in revenue from leasing that over 20 years, would that be $2.7 million that should be added back as income for the town? I know I can't speak to it.
Councilman Mannix, can I answer the?
Go ahead.
That would be a net per year.
Yeah, increase.
The gross would be 180. The net, I would say, would be 125 to 135 every year.
For 20 years, it was $2.7 million.
Correct. It would
That
knock
comes
down
back
the
to the
cost
town.
by almost, 1/3.
Also, 2 years ago, 67% of the voters voted for the pond, knowing that the taxes are going to go up. So that shouldn't be an issue. We voted and said, yes, increase our taxes. We want a library in the Belmont building. And let's see. Lastly, thank you, Jesse, for having Mr. Mannix read his summary, because it brought up a point that I think the majority of the vote getters for the council were ones cumulative supported the library. The minority number of total were ones that didn't support the library. And 14.9% does not overrule 67%.
Thank you.
Good evening, Kelly Cartwright, Champlain Cove Road. I've been known to speak at length on many things, but tonight I'm going to defer to someone far more eloquent.
My name is Maya. I'm 9 years old. I'm in 4th grade, a student at NES in Mrs. Clark's class. My teacher has encouraged me to fall in love with so many books. For example, I love the Lemonade War series and books about animals. I'm one of the many supporters of moving the town library to the Belmont building. I was at your meeting Monday night after walking with the marchers from the library. I would have said this out loud at that meeting, but it felt like it was a place for grown-up speeches. But I would like you to hear what I have to say now. Also, I am here to represent other kids that wouldn't be here because it is a school night. I think we should get a new library because we will have more space for activities, more rooms, and a bigger selection of books. I am a big fan of reading, and I would really like if that could happen, because there are some books I've read in school that I would like to check out from the town library without them having to order it from other libraries, towns. A new library could have more comfortable furniture for people to relax and read or meet with other people. I like that our library has activities for different age groups, but if the library was bigger, they could allow more people to participate in the activities. The librarians at our library are generous and kind. They deserve more space than they are cramped into the current library. The parking lot needs to be a lot bigger. The Belmont space would also be better because there are no stairs to enter the building, and the automatic sliding doors there would be much better for handicapped people to get in. They will also have more than one way in and out in case a door gets jammed or too crowded in an emergency. It would also be great if our library had more quiet rooms for people to work in. A lot of kids use the library. It would be great if they could have a bigger kids area with more kid books and movies. If you don't approve of a new library, you will think back later and be sorry that you didn't let it happen. Please do the right thing. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me.
Thank you.
Matt, nice job giving her extra time. I'm coming to you tonight as a Narragansett resident. My name is Dan Barry. I live in Bonnet Shores on Stratford Avenue. I'm also the fundraising consultant for the library board. Last week at the library finance workshop, I reported that we had $615,000 raised for the library. I wanted to comment or clarify a couple of comments that were made by two town council members after I spoke last week. One council member told the audience that all campaign gifts are pledged over 5 years, and the library could not raise the money in time. I want to let you know that I have run many of these programs where there's bond money and private money involved. I'm very much aware of what people need to do in terms of their spending. What I indicated was we had a $500,000 gift that will be paid over 2 years. And that part you didn't know. If someone had asked me the question, I would have told you. $40,000 would be paid in one lump sum. We've got a $50,000 pledge pledged over 5 years, but they want to know what the finalized timeline is, and they will speed it up. And then we have another $24,000 gift that's going to be paid, that's being paid over a 24-month period. Folks know what their responsibility is. I'm coming to you today to let you know that the finances are going to be in great shape. Fundraising is occurring. In 3 months, we got $615,000. There's another area of concern. Oh, and one other thing, someone mentioned that they weren't pleased with the fundraising. Now, it's only a few gifts, but that's the way we'd like to run our fundraising campaigns. That is at over 50% of the $1.2 million that is required to make the $7 million campaign. So we're well on our way. But there's another area that you need to be reminded about, foundations. We have a very large foundation that I've been working with over a year. Our campaign leadership has met with their leadership last month. They have told us that we're going to be at the top of their priority list for a contribution. That contribution could be in the range of $750,000 to $950,000. They need an RFP. They need to see what the floor plan is going to look like, and most important, what's the total cost of the project. What we're estimating is not good enough for the foundation. They will make their decision in November. They will give us a check for the full amount in December of this year. This is a real money that we're looking at, and it's going to be lost if you don't move ahead. Lastly, the fundraising campaign is going to be great because we have a town that's very angry. Angry people are great donors. I've been getting a lot of calls about how can I help? What can we do? And they've come from people who can give us $1 million to people who can give us $10. Do not let the fundraising be an excuse not to give the RFP. Rick, we need your support. We had a conversation with our campaign chair, who can't be with us tonight, and he asked me to relay that he would like you to come on board and do what you had said 4 weeks ago, to support the RFP. What we need to do is table the sell and pass the RFP.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nathaniel John Henry Crockett. I am a circulation assistant at the Maury Lucians Memorial Library. When I came home today, I found out that my toilet had broken, and I had spent good 2 hours working on it. Then I came here because that's how important this is to me and into this town. When I go home, I'm going to have to go home and start fixing it and finishing it. I want you to know that our library is currently not fulfilling its duties to the town. We have elderly patrons who need help in the digital age who are not receiving it adequately because we do not have the current facilities to do that. 67% of the people voted for it. You know how many card holders we have? Nearly 8 1,000. I know because I digitized all those applications over a 3-year period, and we have more coming in every day. We had maybe 50 last week that I just did. We need to move forward on this project. Sir, we do not need to be as grand as Tiverton. We don't. We have very lovely parks and facilities just down the road, and I think we can make this work. We just have to move forward with it. I implore you, I deeply implore you to please shelve this. Do not let this opportunity pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jason Howell, 116 Westmoreland Street. Well, it looks like there's a big turnout for the library. I haven't heard too much against the library here tonight. A few little points here. I kind of listened to Mr. Lima, Matt, and he had mentioned his Plan B, and it was kind of ironic that he wants to do something on Parks and Rec property. My kids have gone to the Parks and Rec property and taken part in the summer camp. That should be expanded upon, not by a library. You should expand the park for activities for recreation.
Keep the comments to me.
Okay?
We're getting away from
So I think another point, I think the young girl that was up here represents my children, a 10 and a 6-year-old. I think they need a place to have more activities in this town. And like I said, Parks and Rec could expand, but I think the library would provide that opportunity for the children that are in this town. There is not a lot of activities for children in this town. There really isn't. There's a lot of bars, there's a lot of restaurants, but there's not a lot of activities. What, the beach, you know? This library I've been to with my kids, and I can probably admit that I haven't been there lately, but I've been in there when it's been crowded, when it's been uncomfortable for me and my children to even be there. And for that matter, maybe we haven't gone there as much because of that. I think you're making a big mistake, and what I'm really here, I'm very upset about, is that the voters voted for this. Who are you to tell the voters that, no, we're not going to do this anymore? I think that's ridiculous. Matt, of all people, I look at you, because you know what? Out of all the other people I don't know, I know you. You've been in this town for a long time. I'm kind of disappointed in you. This is your town. You've been here for a long time. I don't know what it is. Do you want the library and have the center of town in the north end? Is that what this is about? I'm not sure. But Matt, you need to do this for all of these people that are here. You can see it here. They're here in support of the library. You should be too. You have vested interest. You've been here for a long time. Why don't you man up and support these people back here?
Thank you.
My name is Catherine Galley. I live at 34 Goose Island Road. To the members of the council, it's confusing to me why you would even consider selling a library, the potential of one. We're in a community that now has a Homestead Act trying to retain citizens to build a stronger community. People that are going to stay in this community are looking for resources like a library. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's a place where people go for many reasons, not just to read books. There are a lot of people that are here that live alone. It becomes a place that helps with social isolation. I myself have a grandson in the school, and when we bother to go to the library, because it is a bother, because you can't find a place to park, there's never a place that you can find where you can sit quietly. You have loyal members. People here support the community. We have beautiful beaches, the most expensive real estate just about in the entire state. We deserve and we should have a library to call our own. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Albert. I'm at 133 Camden Road in Narragansett in Bonnet Shores. I kind of came late to the table here. I knew what I read in the paper. A library was going to be built. They bought a building, fantastic. A lot of dissension about it amongst the 5 council members, but 3 people voted in favor. I also knew that 67.9, I'm going to call that 68, I'll round up, 68% of the people in this town voted to move forward with a library 2 years ago. You would have thought it would be moving much faster at this point. But someone told me, come to the council meeting 2 weeks ago. So I came, asking myself the rhetorical question, who's opposed to a library? And then I found out that there were 3 of you who were, in some way, shape, or form. So I was compelled to come back last Monday night for the library meeting, for the work session, and I found out just how much misinformation there was about this, not in the community, but amongst the 5 of you. Now, I have to give credit to Jesse Pugh and Patrick Murray, and also to you tonight, Mr. Lima. You guys got in your cars, you drove up, and you went to see a new library and what it can be. And as I vote for candidates for council, you know what I really look for? Certainly I look for you to do your fiduciary responsibility, but I also look to you for vision, for leadership, to move us forward as a community, not backwards. So what I heard that night, there was kind of a voice of concern about finances in the town from Mr. Lima. He made some points, and I could kind of dispel them one by one from my experience. Ms. Lawler, you had some real concerns about the maintenance fees, and when you talked about them and laid them out, the lady from OLIS, the expert, Karen Meller, dispelled each one of your concerns, and I had to say, you must have been satisfied because you never pushed back at her. And then Matt Mannix, when Jesse Pugh asked you at one point, you said you were frustrated by the lack of collaboration here and getting to the middle. He asked you specifically, what'll get you to the middle, Matt? And honest to God, quote unquote, you said, what will get you to the middle? So I caught you at the end of the meeting. I said, Matt, seriously, what will get you to the middle? And you weren't able to tell me. So I'm very frustrated by that and this lack of information. So what you've heard tonight, you saw a wonderful presentation here. But most importantly, what I heard last Monday night, Ms. Meller came in and said, here's 50% of your library, or 45%. A fundraiser came in and said, here's an extra whatever. Now he's adding maybe an extra almost $1 million more. So we have the funds to do this. And I'm going to ask for leadership and vision tonight from you to make the right call when you think about the people who voted for this project. So kind of my final comment is roll up your sleeves and do your jobs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Rosalind Sinclair, and I live on Boston Neck Road. And everything that has already been said, almost everything, and I think it's a wonderful turnout. But one thing has been neglected, and that is no one has mentioned what an architect can do. Anything that is wrong with this building, one man mentioned that upstairs it was not, there was not room, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If they had been allowed to go ahead with the architect's plan, this would be a moot point. So I just want to give a little encouragement to everyone and think of what we can do with the right architect. And I'm sure we'll have a wonderful, wonderful library for our children and our seniors and all of us. That's all.
Thank you.
Lori Kelly, 25 Wildfield Farm Road. Again, everyone has said everything that I wanted to say tonight, so I'm trying to find the 2 or 3 things that might still not have been said. And I do want to go on record here because Matt Mannix selected this project 2 years ago when he was formerly president of the council. He said either you're staying in the pier, either Belmont or our current building, and our current building renovation numbers were outrageously high, $7.5 million, which we had an architect for and a cost estimator for. As we do for the Belmont project, that's how we derive the 5.8. It seems tonight that Jill, and also Jill ran on a pro-library, and Ricky, this time around you were saying that you were for the library. So it seems right now that both Mr. Mannix and Ms. Lawler are saying they don't know what a library is. And my answer to that is the people of Narragansett know what a library is. They visit at a rate of over 800 a day. So that's your mistake, not the people of Narragansett who have voted and supported this project. Now, Ricky, tonight you're saying that you want this massive, wonderful library in another area that Mr. Mannix has already rejected 2 years ago. And what's interesting about that is on January 14th, we had a workshop here, and you mentioned nothing about that. You mentioned about $12 million to repair this building and $50 million for all the projects in the town that are ahead of this. And I bring this up to you, and I pointed out to the town solicitor that that speech and much of Karen Meller's speech from OLIS are missing from the official YouTube video of that workshop. There is 20 minutes that has been edited out, and it concerns what you said about the project and what the head of the state library system said about reimbursement and modern libraries and the building committee. So I call on you all at the administration to investigate why 20 minutes was missing, and thank goodness that the library has an archivist who has been also publishing this on YouTube, and I encourage everyone in the audience to go and find those 20 minutes and what was said. Thank you.
Thank you. Before you start, I did not select single-handedly the location. It was a consensus of the council at that time.
My name is Valina Foster, 34 Homeland Avenue. I hadn't planned to speak, but people were, the line was starting to dwindle, so I thought it was important to get up. And many important things have been said. I think that all of the people who have spoke against this new library have been talking about things that are just not as important. The point is that 68% or 67% of the people voted for this. And the town council should be working for us, not against us. And my 2 children grew up in Narragansett. They grew up at the library. They learned to love books. They learned to love learning. I still go to the library. I'm a teacher assistant in Narragansett schools. I go to the library for myself. I go for my students. Many of my students don't have internet. They have to go to the library to use the internet. There are wonderful programs there for so many things. I'd like to thank Mr. Murray, Mr. Pugh, for doing what you were elected to do, to listening to the people. This turnaround, Mr. Mannix, is shameful. I believe that anyone who votes against this library should be ashamed, because it's not what the people wanted. It's time to listen to the citizens of this town. It's not up to you to decide that we don't need the library. I urge you not to sell the Belmont building. Please give the people in Narragansett the library they deserve.
Thank you.
My name's Neil Coleman. I live at 31 Fairway Drive. I think this is a great night, and I think it's a very sad night that these eloquent speakers have to come up here and plead for democracy to go into action. I would like to talk about the tax bases of Rhode Island. Everybody's hit a lot of subjects. There are 39 cities and towns in Rhode Island, and Narragansett comes in 35th for taxes. I'll just read off a couple. And when you start to talk about finances, we're doing pretty good here. Woonsocket, this is on last year's 2018, it's online. Woonsocket, $30.10. Johnston, $27.49. West Warwick, 2631, and beautiful Central Falls, 2631. Now we'll start from the bottom on the lowest ones. Little Compton, 584. Block Island, 586. Jamestown, 866. Charlestown, 959. And beautiful heavenly Narragansett, $10.56. We live here in heaven. We're getting a lot of bang for our buck. And I think it's shameful that we have to plead and beg for a library. I saw one person get up here that supported against the library. And I don't know if you have the news flash or anything about Jack Reed on December 4th bipartisan sponsored a bill and for museums and libraries. $299 million will be spent annually up to the year 2025. This is on the president's desk. If he can read it, maybe he'll sign it. And I'd like to address Mr. Lima's comment about the roads and the schools. For 3 years, I've been volunteering at Narragansett Elementary School. I don't know if you're aware of it, but it's a 5-star school, and there are only 12 5-star schools in the state. I don't think we have to worry about the schools. It needs the normal money. And my last words to 3 people at least: have a conscience and vote the right way.
First of all, I would like to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Al Albert, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace in Narragansett, Rhode Island. I have been an educator for the state of Rhode Island for 29 years. I have worked with adjudicated youth and adults at the Rhode Island Training School and the Rhode Island Department of Corrections. I received my doctorate from the University of Connecticut, my master's in educational administration from RIC, and my bachelor's degree in secondary teacher certification, and I have a lifetime certification in mathematics from the University of Rhode Island. I am a certified school administrator for the state of Rhode Island as well. I also have my real estate license. While I am frugal in many respects, I have never voted against programs to fund the betterment of education programs such as K-12 initiatives, sports programs for the schools, and approval of bonds to support our colleges, universities, and our libraries. As an educator in our correctional system, I have a deep understanding of the cost to people and the cost to our society when individuals do not have access to educational resources that can be a springboard to change their lives. One only has to take a look at a 1-year cost for an adjudicated youth at the Rhode Island Training School, over $100,000, or the Rhode Island Department of Corrections, $70,000 to $80,000. Arguments have been made that the new library may allow your tax bill to go up a nominal amount. However, at what cost to society? One may argue the new library may make one taxes go up a nominal amount, which is true, a nominal amount, but we should not be penny-wise and dollar-foolish. Many individuals who are incarcerated are extremely intelligent, and if they had the opportunity to educational resources and programming earlier in life, many would have been able to obtain a good job with decent wages, which could have precluded them from a life of crime. Our Governor, Gina Raimondo, also supports funding for education from preschool to colleges and universities. We as a state support educational resources throughout our state. Why would any member of our town council want to prevent a state-of-the-art library from becoming a reality in Narragansett? We know the cost to retrofit the old library would be insurmountable without the subsidies that has been awarded to us for our newly purchased building. In addition, we could obtain revenue from the sale or lease of the Lugan's building and continue to rent out the liquor store for additional revenue. As a licensed realtor, in addition, because I am fiscally responsible, I recognize a good deal when I see one. With the voters' approval of a bond by 67% and with the reimbursement from OLS of 40%, I recognize the tax burden for the library will be a nominal cost, but the return on the investment will be tremendous. In addition to significant cost savings the town is receiving on its library, the educational benefits of a new state-of-the-art library, the cultural center that will be created through such displays as artwork, the providing of computer access and internet access to those who do not have it, audio-visual resources for the handicapped, support services for the elderly, e-books, and book discussion groups are all priceless benefits to our new library. I do have a question for the council. If the Belmont building were to be sold, could it be raised? And could the developer build more condos similar to Gilbane's condominium village? If the answer is yes, one would question why Gilbane Incorporation did not elect to do so. I would I would think the zoning should not be able to change as it was previously classified as for a single-purpose business, such as a grocery store.
Thank you, Al.
Okay, I am sure Gil Bain would have changed the classification. To conclude, it is evident the people of Narragansett have voted to support the purchase of the new library. I strongly feel all Narragansett council members have an affirmative obligation to not overturn the election results of the popular vote for the new library. If 3 of the 5 do so, its ruling, if allowed, can set a dangerous precedent to not only Narragansett, but to our state and our nation. Many of you are here tonight, along with some of the council and town managers may have not seen me before, because it's difficult for me to make this presentation because of my obligations. However, I have never previously taken time out of my demanding schedule because I have never saw such a pressing issue that prompted me to respond to the town council's actions.
Thank you, Al.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Carleen Town, 240 Woodhill Road. You may know me from all the emails I have sent to you over my discontent with how Mr. Mannix, Mr. Lawler, Miss Lawler, and Mr. Leamer have handled the library project, if you even read your emails. I also wrote letters to the editors of The Independent and the Narragansett Times, and they both changed my words. The Independent even changed my residence to North Kingstown. Who cares what somebody from North Kingstown says about a library in Narragansett? But I'm not here tonight to dwell on the misrepresentation from the newspapers or the lack of response from all but Mr. Murray and Mr. Pugh to my emails. I am here to tell you why I am so grateful to the services offered at the Narragansett Library. I am old, very old. I'm so old that I went to a college prep high school that thought only secretaries need to learn how to type. Over the years, we started calling them clerks and personal assistants. I prefer to think of them as miracle workers who kept schools and businesses running. So I went through college and graduate school using the hunt and peck method on my old typewriter. I still only use these 4 fingers to type. I learned how to use a computer when I wrote curriculum for the Providence School Department. And I even learned how to use a database when it was my responsibility to ensure that all elementary teachers in the system were provided with the materials and teacher training, that's what we used to call it, I think it's called professional development today, that was necessary to implement curriculum. I retired before the internet was commonly used in the Providence School Department. My husband and I felt compelled to purchase a home computer in 1998. Although I could do word processing and database, I had no idea how to use the internet. I came to our library to learn how to access emails and how to search the internet for information. Yes, I could have paid to go to CCRI or some other institution and paid for that instruction, but I became proficient because of the instruction I received at the library for free. I'm sure to the chagrin of Mr. Mannix, Miss Lawler, and Mr. Leamer, who probably wish I had never learned how to email. I am a neophyte when it comes to technology. My cell phone is a 14-year-old Nokia, and I don't even know how to text. Actually, I don't even want to know how to text. If, however, I want to learn in the future, I am sure there is a way to do it at our fabulous library. The library is a way for the old, the young, and the in-between to learn something new every day. We can only do that if you move forward and give us the library that we have overwhelmingly supported through our votes and the time so many of us have dedicated to help you, Mr. Mannix, Miss Lawler, and Mr. Lima, see the light. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Meg Rogers, 68 Earls Court. Reading Council President's comments in the Narragansett Times this week was quite the sobering experience. About selling the Belmont, Council President said, I feel like, I have a whole set of, I don't think, I think, I think, I could have, and the kicker, I could have easily put on the motion the first meeting. I could have said I was delivering on my campaign promise to repeal the deal and that we are done. I, and me. Reading your comments, Mr. Mannix, reminded me of the recent eulogy of one I admired greatly, the 41st President of the United States. Sometimes that humble president spoke choppily, avoiding personal pronouns. That habit was instilled in him by his mother, Dorothy, who did not like too much I and me from her children. If one of them went on that way, she'd admonish them, "Now that's enough of the great I am." And Mr. Mannix, I think I speak for many. We've had enough of the great I am. Everyone here knows that you went to Princeton University, but what we did not know is that you held a degree in library science. And what can we say about someone who denies science? Yes, they call it a science, library science. Leave it to the scientists as to what our libraries should look like. Someday, Council President, you will no longer be sitting on a town council in the smallest state in Rhode Island. Someday you will be remembered for what you did here. And what will your legacy look like? Will it be that you will be remembered for a generous soul who opened his heart, who was willing to change his mind, who listened to the people to enact their will, and who had a vision to bring everyone together? Your actions here tonight will answer that question. If you sell the building, what do we gain? We lose the rare opportunity you all have to unite and coalesce us over building our new library. Instead of taking a deep breath and relaxing over the fact that the fighting was over the Belmont building was over, we all have to come out on one of the coldest and darkest nights in January begging you to enact the will of the people. Instead of letting us have the joy and excitement to see the architect's vision of our new library and coalesce around fundraising events, we have to listen to empty excuses, rhetoric, and foolish plans for alternative locations. Libraries are
Thank you, Meg.
I'm not finished, Matthew. Libraries are community treasure chests. As I'm almost finished, please indulge me the courtesy that you have others
Thank you,
throughout.
Meg.
With a wealth of the prior speaker spoke longer. With a wealth of information available to everyone, they are a key to that treasure chest is the library card. And I want to let everyone know here that when Tiverton opened their beautiful new library, they issued in 1 month 500 cards, more than had been issued in the entire prior year. As one of the beautiful signs the people are holding here tonight is a quote from Albert Schweitzer. "The only thing you have to know is the location of your library," and ours is at the Belmont building. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam Roman, 33 Wheatfield Cove Road. You're worried about finances, yet you're putting the town in jeopardy of lawsuits. You've met with Gilbane for months. He lowered the price. He increased the number of parking spaces because there was going to be a library. Now you want to sell the building that you bought with taxpayers' money out of the rainy day fund, instead of using the bond where we would have got 40 to 50% back from Otis. So that's fraud on Gilbane and fraud on the taxpayers. That's all I got to say.
Good evening. Tom Hines, 14 Piping Plover Drive, Narragansett. Fear not, I just have one little piece of paper here. We've heard a lot about numbers today. The numbers represent the will of the people. We heard about a vote 2 years ago. We heard about 1,000 petitions. If you want something a little more contemporary, before I came, I signed into the Independent, South County Independent's got a poll going on the library. And the vote was 716 in favor and 133 opposed. This all is representative of the will of the people. We started off this evening with a wonderful swearing-in ceremony of a new town clerk. Congratulations. And in that swearing, which I assume all of you have done too, there was a reference to upholding the charter of the town. In the charter of the town, at section 16, 3.2, paragraph 4, there is a phrase under principle of democratic leadership, a provision that says use of leadership power. Legislative leaders and committee chairs should use their leadership powers only in a manner consistent with that of a representative democracy. I would just ask you all to consider what oath you took when you became members of this council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stan Wojciechowski, Narragansett. What I'm so happy to hear is that we're looking at fiscal responsibility, choices, and library. I love the library. The library's a beautiful place. But the library is about people, the people who run the library, who are there every day. They're fantastic. So it's really about people. It's not about the building. They've done such a good job that we've got thousands of people involved in wanting to support a library. So it was the people that staffed this library that did such a fantastic job and continue to do a good job. It's not about a building. You know, I could envision getting more staff and let them use the high school for classes, the auditorium for their movies, for all these extracurricular activities that they participated, started, and used, and very effectively had us engaged. Maybe we could use the school as well as community center for all these other activities. And I think we have to, I'm so happy that you three are looking at the finance, because what's always lost is paying attention to the most effective way to accomplish a goal with the right amount of money. I call it new car-itis. We just want to go out and get a new building. A new building is going to make it so much better. Well, I frankly don't think so. I think so if we need to expand, we need to expand our staff and use the facilities we have within there to provide what we have continued to provide. So I commend you for looking at that and looking at the other opportunities. The library is about people and not the building. And the fact that we made a choice on a building doesn't mean that we still can't look at alternatives to make sure we're doing the right thing for the taxpayer. Not too many people stood up here for the taxpayer point of view. And therefore, I think we ought to, if we can accomplish the same thing with less money, let us try that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Stephen Bellis, 2 Blindbrook Drive, Narragansett. I'm against your motion tonight. It's pretty telling that with the exception of 2 people here tonight, you have no support. Your support is probably behind you. It's invisible. I'm sure we're going to see your supporters at the next town council meeting in 2 weeks. It'll be some of the same individuals that were just up here, the 2 that I spoke about that are in favor of your motion. The next move would probably be to go after the 3-tier tax. Okay, I urge everybody here tonight to keep showing up to these town council meetings. Okay, there's nobody here that favors your proposal here, Matt. And I'm against it as well. We need a library. We've been talking about it for too long. Prior to the campaign, town council member Lima told me to my face, eye to eye, I'm for the library. And here we are, not for the library. It's the special interests that are taking over this town. It's the tail wagging the dog. It's indicative of what's going on in this country. The majority of the people want a library. If you want to see Matt's supporters show up in 2 weeks and you hear them talking about the next tax issue, something to save. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
My name is Tracy Weingartner, and I live at 35 Kingstown Road. I think it's obvious that if this motion passes, it will be the end of the political career of the people who vote for it. What concerns me is if they do the right thing and don't pass it, what will they try next? I don't want to spend another night at this meeting having to watch the people we voted for not do what we asked. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Donna Dexter, East Shore Road. I'm devastated. I stayed here to watch this, and I don't have anything written or composed, but I can't believe what I'm seeing in front of me because, believe it or not, I didn't want to give my address because I was afraid everyone was going to throw eggs at my house, but I voted for each and every one of you on this panel. So therefore, I can't believe that you can't find it in your heart to come to something that is either a compromise, at least, if not agree with the voters at 68%. So please reconsider. I'm sorry, my words are, I'm shaking because I can't even believe what I witnessed here tonight. Please think about this sincerely. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Susan Amoruso, 111 West Bay Drive, and I'm kind of with Nancy, who's one of my neighbors on West Bay Drive, and I said this at the meeting I was at. Mr. Mannix and Mr. Lima were there. And I said, I just don't get it. I mean, the people voted for the bond issue. They were the majority. You can say you represent the people who do not want it, and not everybody wants it. And we can talk about what libraries are, what they're not. But the point is, the town of Narragansett voted, and it wasn't even close. It wasn't like 51%. It was a majority that they said they wanted this. And I've talked to so many people, and I say, isn't it going to be in, the old Belmont building? And I say, no, nothing's done. And they can't believe it, and that's why we got so many signatures. And, I picked up the Jamestown Press today, and that's where I lived previously. And there on the front page was they're going to make 2 additions, minor additions. They don't have a lot of space. They don't have a lot of options, small town. But they're going to do it. They're going to get reimbursement. There's a fundraiser. Everyone is on board, the whole town council. It's like, I thought, what is going on? And people just in other towns are saying, what's the matter with Narragansett? The majority voted for it. How does the majority of the town council think that they know better? We made a decision. We have a vote. You have a responsibility in your votes to represent the majority. It's simple math. I just don't get it, how you think you know better than everybody who voted. That's like, why go and vote? Why should we bother? And I have respect for people who say they don't want it, but they're the minority. And we don't judge the actions of the town on a few. You listen to the majority of the voters, and that's what happened in the bond issue. And I think that you will be very, very surprised by the amount of people that are willing to put their checkbooks behind this event. I think you're going to be very, very, and I think half of that is because of the absolutely outstanding staff that we have that encourage this kind of excitement and joy. So I'm just saying, let's go with what we've got, go forward. We can trim costs, we can fundraise. It will happen. You have to have faith that all these people who are doing all this work aren't just I'm just showing up for this. It's more than that. We want this library, we voted for it, and that's your job, to give us what we voted for, the majority.
Thank you.
Naomi McDonald. I live at 30 Kingstown Road, and my apartment happens to be the one on the end, and I overlook the parking lot and the street and the library, and I can see what's going on.
We can't hear it. Just use it. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, did you get all that? I just, food for thought. We have very few parking spots now, and when we have a lot of people, like at the meeting the other night, I wonder where they parked. Trios, over at where the Belmont building is, maybe the dentist on the side of the street. We're just really shifting the parking issue a few feet over. We're not really, and we've got more spaces at the new place, at the Belmont place. Another thing that was mentioned as an objective to the Belmont was it's a duplication of services. We already have a senior center. We don't really want to duplicate that. Why don't we move the services from the seniors and put it in the library building? And then if we want, we can ask the liquor store, why don't, if they want to go to the building where the seniors are now, rent that out still. And we won't be duplicating services, and we'll have a new spot for the liquor store. We're not about putting them out of business. And my other thought is, if we do this at the Belmont's place, we get the fundraising, the bond, everything else, and you guys still don't like it, then sell it later, because you know what, it'll be worth more money then after we get it all fixed.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to turn to the council. Thank you, everybody, for your input. I want to talk to the council members have had any final thoughts.
Matt, if you vote for it for sale, to put it on the market, the problem Gil Bain had is that it's too small for like Rody Joe's or some type of business, a supermarket. It's just too small. And the major problem that they have is the demographics. What commercial businesses do, they draw a circle around a location, 5 miles, 10 miles. And the problem is 50% of the demographics, because of the location, is fish. So I warn you, if you put it on the market, you're going to keep running into that problem. I've seen it down there, and I really think it's going to affect the price. You'd have to be $3+ million just to break even. And again, unless you have a buyer lined up, I think the demographics issue is going to kill the price. It's going to beat up on the price. The other thing, when we voted back in March 5th to purchase the Belmont market, we didn't have a crowd like this. There was probably 20 people here. There wasn't this big uproar about not buying the building. You know, I just don't understand the thinking. I mean, clearly everybody's on board. I mean, we got a few hiccups, but the camp fees seem to be the biggest obstacle and objection of U3. Now, that's the only thing I can nail down that's actually got some validity. Is there any way, if we can get the board, the library trust, to guarantee that they take responsibility of funding like 40 grand a year to offset the cost of those camp fees and future camp fees in perpetuity? Is that something that if we are able to put together in negotiations with a trust, is that something that would keep you from selling the building tonight?
That money comes from the taxpayers, so you're acting like that's a pot of money.
No, I'm talking they're going to have to raise 40 grand a year on their own, not taxpayer money. We get a commitment from them, get a commitment from these folks. If that is the big obstacle, and to me, again, that's the only one that I see validity for. I mean, but the reason we're paying those camp fees, it's standard practice when a corporation owns the entrances to an isolated lot. I mean, that's the sins of what we went through 50 years ago, and we're paying for it now. But would that be something, not taxpayer monies, not the maintenance of effort that we give the library, but is that something you three could get on board with, that the library is responsible to fundraise every year, and whether it be 25 or some number, to pay down those camp fees, to make this sweeten the pot so it makes you more comfortable and more responsible for taxpayer dollars? Is that something you guys could be on board with?
If we put the property up for sale, right, there can continue to be discussions. We might not get good offers.
Yeah,
so
but
we
the
can
problem
continue to have
is,
discussions about these things.
But the problem is, if we put the market, hang on. The problem is, if we put the property on the market.
But there's not a specific buyer or anything
Well,
here. This is putting it on the market,
Right,
and
but-
so then we'll go from there.
But the problem is, the very fear that you have of us not having a plan when we did have a plan, putting the building, the Belmont building or market on the market, the bond counsel is going to say, what are these people doing? I mean, didn't they just purchase it, back in October of 18 for the new library? Now we're switching horses and putting it back on the market. I think that's going to upset a bond counsel or bonding rating agencies than us moving forward with an RFP, coming up with a dynamic plan, and occupying that space for the very purpose that the voters wanted. I mean, I think we can negotiate these camp fees. Laura Kenyon, what do you think? Think we can do something there?
Patrick.
Did she leave?
She's there. She's here.
What do you think? Is that something you guys can embrace? If the camp cheese...
No, the camp fees for me weren't in any of the factors that I outlined that were my reasons, so no. And actually, we asked Laura Kenyon, since she's still here, when we did meet with bond counsel, we did ask the bond counsel what would happen if we sold. He had no issue if we sold the building. No issue, Patrick.
Well, he just wants a decision.
But
yes or no. But the thing is, we delayed 3 months.
No, but what you're saying is that he would take issue with it, and he did not when asked that question very specifically.
Well, the thing is, we were just delaying the RFP. That was he had issue with. Either he did say, either you sell it or move forward with the RFP. So it isn't like, well, we got to sell it now because the bond counsel told us to.
No, he didn't tell us to, but we asked the question, if we did, would it be an issue, and he said no.
My question is, if we had a fundraiser every year, we'll call it Cash for Cam, whatever you want to call it, and they raise a certain amount of money every year, and commit to it, is that something you guys can embrace so we can move forward with this project and satisfy what these voters want?
Thank you, Patrick. I think I've answered it. The money is still taxpayer money, and there's no guarantee.
No, it's not taxpayer. It's people donating. It's donation.
All right. What do other people on the council think?
Ricky, is that something you can embrace?
Well, there's other issues besides that.
Look, first off,
There's no yelling out and inciting the crowd, so let's stop the madness.
Yeah, I'm trying to stop the madness.
look, first off, I've looked at this building, and I've looked at Tiverton. And I'm not saying, excuse me, I've sat here and listened to you people. Now, please listen to what I'm going to tell you. Yes. So, I don't want to put a building as big as Tiverton, but I'm more than willing to build a smaller model of Tiverton because it would be brand new, state of the art. You get every reimbursement. Olis told you, whatever we build, we get the 43%. I just don't understand why you don't want to build a state-of-the-art building and get 43% on it, and you don't have to worry about it. Let me just give you, for instance, if we do this building right, brand new, with the right roof, you will never worry about it for the whole length of the building. It will be there for lifetime. The roof at Belmont's not lifetime, believe me. And there was a report out in April that went out that a lot of people didn't get on that building. And if you get that report and look at it, there's a lot of things that need to be done to this building, okay? This building needs some work. It's an old building, it's a supermarket, it's a warehouse-type building, and for me, that building is in the heart of our commercial business of this town and has a value, okay? That's what it is, and that's my decision. Thank you.
All right,
Thank
Rick,
you.
so can we discuss, how about a metal roof on the Belmont? Metal roof on Belmont? The roof's the concern, right?
Huge money, huge. You'd have to crown that roof.
Well, I think that there is at the Tiverton Library, they had like a dormer type roof. Basically, it was a raised roof with glass all around, and then it had a shed on top. But that is something that, again, through an RFP, we can ask the architect, can we take this flat roof and alter it without too much money? I understand what you're saying. I'm not a big fan of the flat roof, especially with weather like we just had the last couple days. But that's what this RFP was about. I mean, if we investigated and just followed through, I think a lot of these questions will be answered in short order. And you'll find that the costs of 10.5, I don't think it's going to be as bad. Remember, I mean, we added 2.5 years of delays, and those numbers are still good. So, in closing, I am begging you, any of you, Matt, Jill, Ricky, I am begging you, do not put this facility, this building, our opportunity to get that consecrated pier ground back into the fold. Do not put it up for sale. I am begging you.
Any thoughts from Mr. Pugh, Ms. Lawler?
Yeah, I guess at this point, you know, you've said multiple times that you're looking for a compromise. We've talked about the pier liquor. Patrick's talked about fundraising for the CAM fees. What else would you like in a compromise?
I think the chance for compromise is passed.
What are you, a king?
Are there any other comments? So
yeah, what about that?
well, let's talk about that. So let's talk about that now. All right?
Sure.
Hey, let's have some respect, please.
I'm not going to sit up here and rehash all the arguments for and against the purchase of the IGA building by the town. We've all heard those arguments. Instead, I want to talk about the reasons for this motion and some of the events of the past week. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Last Wednesday, I received a voicemail inviting me to an event at the current library. I thought it would be a good opportunity to explain the reasons for this motion. What I encountered that night was something altogether different. I've never attended an event, forum, or session with such a hostile group of people, so unwilling to listen to an opposite point of view. There was a handful of people there who thanked me for coming and had a genuine desire to talk. Otherwise, I felt like I was in the presence of an angry mob, and I did not feel very welcome. I'm still confused as to why I was even invited. What I realized later is that the head of the Friends of the Library had selectively sent the notice of this informational forum to certain people with the following notice. Our worst nightmare has come to reality. Let me say that again. Our worst nightmare has come to reality. We have learned that Matt Mannix has put a motion to sell the Belmont building on the Town Council's agenda for Tuesday, January 22nd night's meeting. Unless it gets pulled, his motion will be on the agenda and available to public at 4:30 tomorrow, Thursday, on the council website. This news makes tonight's informational forum all the more important. It is critical that you attend to discuss a plan of action. It will be held at the library at 7 p.m. Our Board of Trustees will report the results of their work session with Town Council held this last Monday night. Town Council members have been invited to attend. So as you can see, this was hardly notifying people of an informational forum. Rather, it was essentially a political rally to come up with a plan of action to oppose my motion to offer the IGA building up for sale. I will not get into the misinformation that was spread at that event, both regarding the library and other issues. Instead, I share this story because it's indicative of how the Friends of the Library and our current Board of Trustees, a majority of which were at Wednesday's event, have lost their way. Neither entity seems willing to hear any discussion opposed to its point of view. That development is troubling. I also share this story to point out how the debate on this issue has reached a fever pitch that is unhealthy in a civilized society. Go watch the tape of that Wednesday forum and let me know your independent thoughts. Meanwhile, let me share with you the tone and content of messages I've received on this issue. On December 11th, 2018, I was emailed the following. I've had enough of your power-hungry, rude, negative, and disrespectful actions. You should ask for forgiveness. In a democracy, no person, elected or otherwise, should ask for forgiveness for expressing an opinion. I've expressed my opinion pretty clearly on this issue for over a year. People should not be scolded for an opposite view. And the writer of this email failed to specify the individual against whom I had directed such disrespectful actions. Prior to the election, another individual put up a post stating that Jill Lawler and I, quote, poisoned the well for everyone in Narragansett, and anyone who associated with them should be shunned, end quote. Shunned? Shunned? Then there are the outright lies. Two came in last Friday's edition of the Narragansett Times via letters written to the editor. The first stated that Mannix, quote, illegally appointed himself president of the council. The second stated that Mannix hijacked tradition by declaring himself president. I did not and cannot declare myself president. Let me repeat, I did not and cannot declare myself president. I can't. Under our charter, the council elects its leadership in the first regular meeting after the November election. I was duly elected by this council in a 3-0 vote as its president. These writers do not care about getting facts straight or familiarizing themselves with the town charter. They simply want to remove me from office and will stop at nothing to achieve that goal. Let me repeat that. They will stop at nothing to achieve that goal. But the real icing on the cake for setting the tone for this debate also came on Friday via text from my colleague, Mr. Pugh, who was elected to the council for the first time past November. After focusing on the issue of increased collegiality during the campaign, Mr. Pugh sent me and the entire town council the following text message last Friday morning. Hey, Matt, I just read today's paper, and I can say to you with no regret, go blank yourself. I'll expose every single lie you told on Tuesday. It's going to be fun, a-hole. This has to stop. This has to stop.
Stop the vote.
This has to stop. We are not debating the death penalty or some grave moral issue here, okay? We are essentially arguing over whether or not our town library will be at one end of the pier or the other, the amount of money that will be devoted to that library by taxpayers, and the types of activities the library will house. I've expressed my concern regarding these factors. I also want to point out that no realistic analysis of a more modest proposal to fix the existing site and make it handicap accessible and allow for more parking has been put forward. I tried to do that in executive sessions for over a year, but was shut down every time I tried. Finally, I want to point out that the bond approved in 2016 authorizes the town council to borrow up to $5.8 million to purchase and renovate a library. It is not a mandated requirement that the council borrow the full $5.8 million. Many people have been stating that the town council is required or mandated to borrow the full $5.8 million. That is simply not true. It's an authorization to borrow. Now we must decide which path we're going to take. We've heard a lot about that tonight. Do we continue down the path with the RFP or another route? We can't sit on the IGA building and not do anything. We have to express to bond council an opinion, preferably via a public vote, on how to fill the $2.8 million hole in the budget that we inherited from the prior council.
Not a hole in the budget, it's a hole in the
A hole in the
reserve,
surplus.
reserve,
A hole in the
reserve.
surplus. I misspoke.
Okay.
Crucify me,
There's a
because
big-
that's what you want to do.
Well, there's
right?
a big difference. There's a big difference.
Stirring up all this animosity.
There's a big difference between the reserve and this year's
So
budget.
I'm urging my colleagues to support me in this effort to not embark on a risky and expensive construction project at this time. Thank you. And
So
I'm
Matt-
going to I'm going to now call the vote.
Actually, Matt, can I just respond?
No, all in favor.
I'm going to respond.
No. Oh, you're not.
I'm going to respond.
All in favor.
Matt.
All in favor.
Matt.
All in favor.
Are you limiting debate? Have you limited debate?
No.
Let's talk about
So
the
you're
bond.
not limiting debate.
Let's talk about the bond, okay? Now, where are you comfortable? How much money are you willing to give towards the build-out? If it isn't 5.8, what number would make you more enthused about this project? I mean, the 5.8 obviously isn't the number you're looking for.
No, it's not.
So what number? Would it be 5.5, 5, 4? What number?
What else do you have to debate? This is not a question and answer session. What are your points you want to make?
5.8 million. 5.8 million.
To persuade on this motion,
All
right?
right.
You wanted an up or down vote on your motion for this RFP, right? You've pushed for it. It's consumed 3 meetings, okay? There's other
Because you
issues that
kept
we have to
dragging it
deal
out.
with in the town. Well, I wanted to have the work session, but you put the thing on. I'm not going to get. You two go ahead and say what you need to say.
All right,
If you need to stir
5.8
things
million
up more,
all right,
you go ahead.
What if we committed 4.8? Would you be happy with a $4.8 million if the town said, listen, we're only going to spend 4.8, and then Dan Barry would have to raise another $1 million? Would you be satisfied with that scenario?
Does anyone else have anything to add?
No compromise. No compromise at
Does
all?
anyone else have anything?
Mine's not about even about this deal because you guys have made up your mind. I will address that text message, and I will express regret and apology for the wording of that text message, but not the sentiment. So thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
No.
Motion approved 3-2. We'll 5-minute break.
I guess so.
All right, our next, I'm going to ask everybody to return to their seats, please. All right, we want to resume our meeting. All right, item number 13 is a motion to discuss and possibly amend rules and procedures for the Narragansett Town Council meetings as adopted August 6, 2018.
I move to,
No motion. Nope.
I was going to reject it. Mr. Pugh's not here, so I move
All
that we
right,
just...
is there a second?
I move to reject it.
All right, second. Discussion?
Second, yeah.
Do you have an amendment, Ms. Lawler?
I amend that we keep as agreed upon at last meeting, that we have the open forum at the last part of our meeting, so the council can have their business meeting and then hear from public at the end of the meeting.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 3-0. Item 15 is a motion to approve the filling of one vacancy at Deputy Town Clerk due to a promotion.
So moved.
Second.
Second. This is obviously the replacement for Terry, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 3-0. 16, a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept as a first reading an ordinance and amendment of Chapter 54 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Personnel, as it relates to amendments to Article 3, Division 4, Section 118, sick leave.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. Mark, can you give us just a brief summary on this? The 50% buyback, the 100. This is our first reading of an issue that's come to our attention recently, and so I'm going to let. If you're not prepared to do it.
No, I mean I can do it, or I can do it. So there's an ordinance in place at this point in time that provides that all non-union employees are entitled to, at the time of retirement, to a sum equal to 50% of the accrued but unused sick leave. And in researching this, the town council has decided that there have been some inconsistencies with the way that's been executed in the past, and that it should be amended to address those people who have been with the town a long time, that they should be entitled to what they believe was the case and what the actual practice was. So the amendment is basically codifying what the practice had been prior, and then provides for any non-union member to be paid 100% of their accrued but unused sick leave if they were hired before July 2017. Anybody hired after July 2017 would then be subject to the 50% buyout.
Great. So going forward, we're going to be now that's come to our attention, we'll be implementing the ordinance as read. All right.
Jim, did you want to add something else?
Yes, Mr. President, you okay with that? Just to give you a brief historical perspective on this, since 1992, that as far back we could trace it, any non-union member who retired or SMT member was given the full 100% buyback on up to 180 days. That was inconsistent with an ordinance that was found on the book as recently as 2 months ago. I would add that there are 4 collective bargaining agreements in place with the 4 unions that were also inconsistent with the old ordinance of a 50% buyback. Because of the past practice, and because of the valued employees we have, union and non-union, it has to be consistent. So I'm respectfully asking the town council to vote
yes for this, it will correct an inconsistency in that past ordinance that you can correct now, and it will correct something in the future, that what the intention of the town would be to provide a 50% buyout for anyone hired after that July 1st, 2017 date, which is also the date that the two collective bargaining agreements agreed to change the post-65 benefit package. So I think this would really wrap things up and make it very transparent.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 3-0. Item 17 is a motion to adopt a resolution amending the official list of designated stop intersections and the official stop sign map in accordance with the Narragansett Code of Ordinances.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. These are stop signs placed at the intersection of Joy and Gardenia Lanes. Any questions for DPW? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 3-0. Item 18 is a motion to approve contract amendment number 2 for aeration system improvements related to the miscellaneous improvements to the Scarborough Wastewater Treatment Facility project with James J. Jeremiah and Associates Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $28,560.
So moved.
Second.
This item comes from Wastewater Department. Are there any questions for Mr. Cesarini?
None.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 3-0. Item 19 is a motion to approve the request from the American Diabetes Association to conduct a cycling fundraiser, Tour de Cure, to be held on Sunday, September 29th, 2019, from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., subject to approval of state and local regulations.
Jim, just to confirm, because I know that this is a
Just
hot
do the
spot with
motion.
people. I'm sorry, yeah, move that motion.
Second, Ricky?
Second.
Thanks. Discussion.
So Jim, I just want to confirm for the town, because I know that there are a lot of people that do not want to see additional road races. Jim, this is just changing from one, Jim?
April to, yeah.
Yes, so every single road race that comes in, we scrutinize every one. This is one that has been there in place for quite a while, and I would recommend this one's approved.
So we're just changing it from spring to fall or fall to spring, whatever the case is.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, motion approved 3-0. Item number 20 is a motion to award the bid for the purchase of basketball backboard systems for the Parks and Recreation Department to the lowest bidder, Bill Fritz Sports Corporation, the amount of $11,676.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This is from Parks and Rec Department. Any questions for Mr. Wright?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 3-0. Item number 21 is a motion to approve the removal of the windmill building.
We're going to pull.
Item number 21 is going to be withdrawn at this time. Item number 22, a motion to approve, ratify, and confirm the multi-year contract award with NG Resources, a subsidiary of the NG Group, for the purchase of electricity for all town accounts.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This item comes from the engineering department. Are there any questions for Jeff?
Nope.
All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 3-0. Item 23 is a motion to approve the contract extension for the miscellaneous repair and construction for the Water Division, Wastewater Division of Public Works Department for a one-year period with George Sherman Sand and Gravel Company Incorporated at their quoted prices and rates under the same terms and conditions as the previous year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Any questions for Jim? This comes from purchasing.
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 3-0. Item 24 is a motion to approve the purchase of one new 2017 Ford Interceptor utility SUV from Colonial Municipal Group in the amount of $28,656.15.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. This item comes from the police department. Is there any are there any questions for the police chief?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 3-0. Item number 25 is a motion to rescind the bid award for general welding and fabricating services from this point forward from the awarded bidder, the Fab Shop LLC, at their bid rates and markups.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. There was not as much bandwidth because one of the welders got another job. Is that correct, Mr. Manny?
Yes, that is correct.
Great. All right. So any other questions?
I think Mike wanted to add something. Okay.
Was that correct? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 3-0. And a motion to appoint an individual to the Tax Assessment Board of Review for a 3-year term to expire on November 1st, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, I believe the reappointment is for Joe Robenheimer, so that would be the individual being reappointed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion approved 3-0. Next, we have a motion to retire to executive session of the Town Council in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-4 and 42-46-5A to discuss personnel, salary ranges for non-union and senior management employees in accordance with 42-46-5 subsection A1, to discuss collective bargaining, police, IBPO Local 303, and Fire, IAFF Local 1589, labor contract negotiations in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5 subsection A2, and to discuss collective bargaining, police, IBPO Local 303 health benefits in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5 subsection A2. First, the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, roll call vote. Mr.
Jill Lawler,
Lima?
aye.
Mr. Lima?
Richard Lima, aye.
And our two colleagues have departed, so they're not here to do the rest of the town business. Matt Mannix, yes. Motion approved 3-0. Thank you, everyone.